just like literally just dive on him right off the
bat. What do you think you are? Of course. What do you mean? Of course. Do we do anything except off the cuff in here? All right. They can see us. For some reason, the display isn't fully working. I'll work on that here in 1 second. But what's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of the PREDCAST. You guys are going to see some familiar faces are coming back. You're going to see some new faces that you might have seen around. We'll introduce them as we go. But welcome, everybody, to the episode now. Of course, PREDCAST, we essentially go over all Predecessor news, updates, etc. Try to keep it as orientated to Predecessor as possible, but we might use other MOBAs and etc. as far as comparison goes. Now, let's get to our introductions really quick. Let's start off with our guest, Zygor. Then we'll actually do Crashy, Joey, then myself. Bearded will be in a little bit later, but tell people a little bit about yourself.
All right, guys. My name is Zygor. I played like the last 2 months of Paragon, so I don't have like a ton of experience with the previous games, but I've been kind of waiting for Predecessor to come out since they announced they were using legacy assets, and then they bait and switched me, and then they used monolith assets. So I'm kind of bent about that still to this day. But
bro, we got to talk about that later. I guess you
could say I'm a pretty decent player. I think probably Crashy and Joe are better than me, but I would say that I'm up there. And then I guess to the community now, I'm the map guy, because that's like my one video that was kind of big. So that's kind of what I'm here for. We'll talk about that later, though.
Spicy, welcome, map guy. Officially. Go ahead,
Crashy. So, friends, it's me, the Crashy guy, now featuring pink hair. That's a newer thing. And I play jungle, and that's my identity. And if I didn't have that, then I would be nothing. Yeah, I don't know.
Joey?
This is Joe Shirley. Yeah, I'm a content creator. I do offline a lot. I also do a little bit of everything. So yeah, just check me out on YouTube if you have not already.
Spicy. And I am Windu, also known as Winduthemace. I pretty much mainly do Predecessor content as of late, even though I have been dabbling a little bit on the Star Wars side. But this episode, of course, of PREDCAST is focused on Predecessor. Now, one of the first things that I want to hit off, we actually just mentioned this behind the scenes, so I totally want to kind of hit this up real quick. What website can you use to find people's replays IDs without being friends with them?
Yeah, so if you go to a Meta City, and then you have to have their username for their account, right? We type in their username, and then you'll have their matches. If you just click on a match, it'll say matches with a little arrow, and then it'll have like a long code string up the top that has some dashes in it. If you copy and paste that into the replay system on Predecessor and you remove the hyphens, you can actually pull up the replay and watch it with the search function.
That's crazy. I didn't actually know that. So
I've been using it to figure out everybody's jungle secrets. So,
bro, that's nuts.
Yeah. That's
you just remove
the API. You can learn. I feel like what the APIs do well, or these API sites specifically, is it closes the gap of certain knowledge points, right? Like, for example, I have like 1,100 games played. I'm not kidding when I say I think 11 or 1,000 of them are jungle. So every now and then, someone will contest me for jungle, and it will kick me to carry, and like, bro, I've played like 40 carry games. I don't know what I'm doing, right? So I'm like, okay, let's Survivor TV. Like, what does he build? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the easiest. It has to be the best use for these websites, right? Like, if you're learning, go learn. Go click on the people on the leaderboard, find something that they're building, and then just emulate that for like a while, and then you can mix it up and stuff. But that's got to be the best thing for those websites, or about those websites.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same exact thing. Like, whenever I used to play League of Legends back in the day, I'll just use op.gg or use Blitz, and you can just learn so much just looking at what's the most played heroes, what's the best kind of build paths, or what are the most used build paths, and just copy paste, and you just kind of go from there, and really help your gameplay a lot.
Yeah, I have like 5 years of League experience. So before this game even dropped, I actually was watching Joe's videos on like the early access that came out that I was invited to, and I was like looking at all the items, and I'm like, dude, some of these items are broken. So I was theory crafting before the game came out. So I have a fairly good idea of how all the items work, and I think I can play all the roles fairly decently. But yeah, definitely I'm better at jungle than most of the other ones. The flip side of the API is, I think it makes people a little toxic sometimes.
You think so? Because they're MMR chasing or leaderboard chasing, whatever the hell.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm doing it. Okay,
Yep.
Do it.
Bring it up. Let's go.
The MMR side is all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all proprietary versions of whatever calculation that they borrowed from other systems or other people that have created these systems. And while it's cool and there's a leaderboard and it's cool, it means fucking nothing. Like, if you want to judge your skill, just look at your win rates and like work to improve your win rates. But like these arbitrary like MMR things that the leaderboard doesn't factor party sizes. It's like you're constantly losing more than you gain. Like it puts these like unrealistic expectations. And then on top of that, like I really hate that they gave certain MMR ranges like a rank, because it's not real. Like there's no like quality control in this entire thing. And I do think it's fine. Like it's cool. Like I look at my thing, I think I range like 1800 to 1900 or so. But when it first came out, it felt like something I could really like lock onto and work on and like try to grind. And then as time went on, I was just like, this is nonsense. Like it's a nonsense system. So don't use that as a catalyst to shit on someone else. Don't use it to be like, oh, I'm diamond versing plats. So you know what I mean? Like we don't even know how accurate those numbers are to the internal, like the actual MMR. Although I don't think they're probably too far off. We don't exactly know. And so
let's not forget, a lot of those numbers are also inflated because of the player base problem. Once you add 30,000 players, somebody that thinks it might be diamond, all right, homie, you're really a silver. Let's be real.
I'm not that good. I should not be as high ranked as I am, but I am. So
well, the other thing too is like I don't understand it all, and I think that's definitely a reason why I don't care for it too much, because like it's super easy to see that like people with really low games played, their fluctuations are massive, and so you can have like a new account and get it like in the top 10. It's so easy. But then at like a more like locked in like grandfathered account, like dude, that thing it's hard to move. And so how much 5-stack influence definitely affects like your MMR, and like people that 5-stack like really heavily early on, they're probably sitting really high up and it's hard to shove them down. But like if you're a solo queuer, dude, your MMR is volatile as shit. It's like super, super volatile. So I don't know. I just like the notion of like, oh, like even like looking at it and like knowing what your rank is. It's just so silly, dude.
I was going to say real quick on the rank part, when the two sites that we have, Predecessor.pro and Omega.city, they're completely fucking different from each other, like wildly, drastically different.
Well,
bro.
they're wildly different because they're just both using their own thing. So here's the thing. I feel, and this is super speculative, I feel like Omega specifically did not allow them to use internal MMR. Like they were like, no, like they put a hard block on that, because seeing both of them simultaneously come out with their own proprietary thing or whatever like calculation they're doing, I think is like pretty telling to me. The reason why, and again, this is super speculative, maybe a dev will just randomly be like, nope, Crashy's wrong. My speculation on that is if we see the real numbers, then we really see how matchmaking works. Like we'll know exactly how it works. So I think the real numbers open up a little bit of liability. And so like the potential like, created numbers are like less literal. But that's just my thought process on it.
So actually, League has an MMR system that's hidden, and they also have their LP, their league point system. Mm-hmm. And part of it, I think, is so that people can't complain about their matchmaking system, like you said, because like people totally will. But part of it is also because if you can see how much MMR you're getting and losing per game, that is accurate. Allegedly, somehow you can use that to game the system and kind of take advantage of that. And I've never looked into doing it because I don't really care that much, but that's what they've always said. I like the way that Dota does it, where it's just like a very standard MMR system. You can see it, and then once you get to a certain rank, like they don't even sort the teams based on MMR anymore. They put 10 people in a group, and the 2 highest ranked players are captains, and they say, okay, here are these people, draft your teams, and then if your teams are imbalanced, it's your guys' fault.
Isn't that what like percentage of people actually experience that draft?
Isn't that like dodgeball?
It's people
rules,
who
right?
play in immortal games and higher, which is like the top 0.0.
I was going to say, because at that point, because that's the other thing. I guess this is slightly important to bring up. The things that we're talking about are quick matches or like public standard matches versus ranked systems too. So that's the other thing too.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But I don't think that's a terrible idea, but like something like that definitely is like more of like a ranked thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you kind of like know everybody, right? Like if you say let's pretend fast forward to the future, we're playing solo duo queue and we have captain's draft. Now I'm just like, Windu's in my lobby. I'm not drafting that fool.
Bro, so let me actually ask you then, because the other side of that coin also exists. There's people that say them being able to see the fact that they're plat, diamond, bronze, silver, whatever, that's a reason for them to keep playing because they know where they stand, at least within that board, right? And that's a reason for them to continue playing.
I think if you keep it in a bubble for yourself, that's fine, I guess. Like, again, I think like trying to use it to compare yourself to other people or to specifically like, oh, shut up, you're like a 1400 player. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing that, it's like, stop it, get some help.
I feel like though, I think the majority of the players don't really care about the rank. At least when people just mostly play casual queue, I think people care about just having fun in the first place, and the rank kind of comes second, third, or fourth, or whatever priority for them.
See, I would say that's probably like that depending on what type of lobbies you get, right? Because I definitely know and have plenty of homies that regardless of what happens, and it's like, who's that on the other team? Wait a minute. Is that Natty? Oh, there goes my fucking MMR. Okay. All right. I get it. So, I mean, I guess I would be optimal as far as people just having fun and rank goes last. But I definitely, I got a buddy that I kid you not, like I played support with him. He will look up every single person on the enemy team and on our team in ometa.city while we're just waiting there for the first minute and be like, yep, our solo's the weak link. Yep, okay. That support, trash. We gotta bully the support. And like super sweat. And I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad he gave me these details because I'm definitely shitting on that support first, like just to kind of get it out of the way, right? But I mean, there's gonna be those people, right? And the tools like this are actually making the game more like enjoyable for those people. I'm still fucking surprised that you can even see the replay as easy as that, bro. Like that shit just blew my mind.
Jack in chat said 50% surrender rates must be good matchmaking.
Is that like actually
is that accurate though?
Like,
so on the subreddit today, somebody who allegedly pulled the API data, pulled the data on like surrender rates, win-loss rates based on like dawn and dusk side, and like your win rate per team, depending on who gets first blood. It was like if your team gets first blood, you have like a 60% chance of winning that game type of deal. And one of the statistics was that there's like 50% of the games are 10-minute surrenders or end in forfeit.
How could a first blood impact 15% of probability? That's a huge percentage for one kill.
I think it's that, bro. Most predecessor players have mind games like unlocked. It's a tilt.
Bro. You think people tilt after the first kill?
Okay, no. You watch. I shit you not, bro. I was duo with Feppy. I was telling you about this earlier, right? I was duo with Feppy. I shit you not. Our mid laner went 0-2. Our jungler that's 0-0, just minding his business, immediately at the 9-minute mark, AFKs on core and starts dancing on core. He's like, get me the fuck out of this game. And we're like,
okay, listen.
I'm like, what is happening right now?
And I can't call that the Katarina special.
I'm very surprised at the 15% jump from first blood, but this is an actual thought. I hate surrendering. Like it's almost like I'm aggressive. I'm really aggressive with this take. So keep in mind, this is like a me thing and I don't actually expect this change. I would just get rid of it entirely. If it was literally me, I would never have surrenders or like really, really niche cases. I know that's not realistic, so don't think I'm that too long. But what I think you really should do is push back the bar. Give people a chance to like play and experience the game before just letting surrendering happen. Like push that shit to like 20 minutes. Because if you kind of crush if you have the door open for surrendering early, then people know it's a possibility. Then people's mentals will reach to that time point.
GG, go next too quick.
their mentality to GG go next happens way sooner. But if you kill that part of them, like you literally just like get rid of it, if it's gone and you can't surrender until like 2025, then they know they're playing until 2025 anyways. But I did see some, I want to say I saw it, but I don't remember it well. I think Freak from League of Legends, he did some kind of breakdown on the probability of winning a game when like 2 or 3 people surrender, and it's like when 2 or 3 people are voting yes and everybody else is voting no, dude, the win percentage is like 3%. It was some like grossly low number because people are out, they're checked out, they're gone, they're checked out. So if you push back that bar, then the checkout time I think will happen later, and it's about building the culture of that, right? Like, it's not like it just happens overnight. It's about like cultivating people actually giving a shit and trying. But dude, people they give up so easy, and it sucks.
So here's my take. In Dota, you cannot surrender, but I think in quick play matches, you should be able to surrender at 10 minutes because quick play matches are about having fun.
Sure.
There's no ranked mode because the game's early access, and there's always the early access excuse, which tilts me because it's like always the excuse, but it's true because it's what it is. So I think when ranked comes out, no surrenders in ranked, period. However, the draft mode that is not ranked, I think should maintain a 10-minute surrender window just because like it doesn't really matter. I'd rather not play a game that I'm getting shit stomped in for 20 minutes, but
yeah. Admittedly, I definitely do the thing where I do sometimes forget that we're talking about normals. So like I think that's a really good like distinction to make, because I agree with that. I would love ranked to never have surrenders or have it just like really late or under certain circumstances, right? Like if someone is just full on DC'd, sure maybe, right? Like sure maybe I'm cool. But yeah, I like that.
Reaper, this game needs a remake function.
What do you mean
a remake fun? Like just like a rematch?
So in League, if somebody disconnects for 1 minute before the 3-minute mark, you can remake the game. That person loses LP, and then nobody else is penalized. Because I think the stats where somebody's AFK for 3 minutes, it's like you have like an 80% chance of losing because they just like you never catch up essentially.
Yeah,
maybe. Now, so Reaper in the chat was actually saying, how do you guys feel about this? He's saying that he thinks that, or he's wondering how many surrenders happen after a team wipe. Like just like a key moment, right? Like imagine you're in a 1v1 and your gadget is sitting right next to you, and gadget never flinches, never helps. She's just sitting there hitting minions while you're in the middle of a fight next to her, right? I've seen moments like that, and then the jungler's like, gadget's brain dead, get me the fuck out. And then right now, I'm gonna say I'm not playing this game. Like how many times has that happened? Let's be real, just because of one specific instance. And now they're checked out for the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Yeah, happens all the time.
Bro,
I would never mental boom in my games.
Bro, I play every single game to the death, bro. Like, what is it? Even in the shit show games that we were in with Feppy, I was like, nah, bro, we're riding this the fuck out. That Fengman wants to be like that? Bad. Let's see how much he likes that core for the next 20 minutes, bro. We're riding this, and we almost pulled off a 4v5 by all means, but you know, facts against us. Unlucky. Now, let me ask you guys this. So, I want to talk a little bit about quality, since we're kind of on the whole matchmaking debate, right? Quality of teammates specifically. Do you guys think that whenever these matches are happening, is the quality of your teammates pretty fair, or can you definitely tell that one of your teammates might be, you know, playing with Play-Doh on the other end or some shit like that? Like, what are y'all thoughts? Don't hold back.
Snacking on their favorite flavor crayon.
don't hold back. I'm really curious as to what do you guys think about the quality of individuals that you get teamed up with?
I'm gonna go last on this one.
Okay. All right. Joey, start it off. You are a very positive individual. Let's start it off on a good note here.
Well, this may sound a little harsh, but I can't remember the last time I have a very favorite game in Predecessor. It always, because I mean, maybe part of the reason is where my MMR is at. It's just really up there, and there's no way the game can balance that out fairly, but it's just in Predecessor in general, there's always a weak link, there's always one, there's a 5 stack, it's just matches are always all over the place for me at this point. It's kind of like one of the big things that's really preventing me from playing this game and grinding it out at the moment.
Interesting. And before we go ahead and move towards Zygor here, do you think that might have anything? Do you think that's specifically tied to just your individual skill level and where you're at? Do you think it might vary a little bit different if you weren't as good?
Well, I think it's a lot of people also kind of having this issue too. Like I hear a lot of complaints from other streamers like Six or We, but it's just like in general, I think at a certain point, once you reach that MMR threshold, your game is just going to be sort of like a flip almost on like half the time. And sometimes I do get really kind of fair games here and there, but I feel like at least 60% of my games are kind of unfair matchmaking.
Which team has the person that's going to feed the most, basically?
Yeah, essentially.
Zygor?
So I often after matches will go look up the match to see, how balanced my games allegedly were supposed to be. And there's like, the big thing is the higher you get up the MMR ladder, the more the game has to balance your team with like bad players to make up for how high it is. Because basically it takes all your MMR, adds them together, and then divides them by 2 and tries to balance the teams the best it can with the 10 players that it picks up. And so if your MMR is really high, it's going to balance your team MMR by giving you the poor teammates. And so it's almost like if you are good at the game, you're being punished for being good at the game. And it's gotten to the point where I've played with players enough and I've looked at those post-match stats enough so I kind of know who is good and who isn't, to the point where if I see somebody in my solo lane that like isn't that good, I just won't even path there anymore. I'll just go camp my duo lane and hope that they can carry it. Because the thing is, if I go invest time in that solo laner as a jungler, they'll throw the lead anyway because they don't know how to play the game. So it's just like, I never feel like I'm actually playing the game, because the game that should be being played at an optimal level is not the game that's ever being played unless I'm playing into like a 5 stack and I get like 6 and Seismic and like Survivor and like a bunch of 5 random really good players on my team. And then we just raffle stomp them because we all know what each other is supposed to be doing and are doing at the same time. And it's just like, those are the only games that I really have a lot of fun in. And even then, those aren't competitive because, like, how is a team ever going to beat a team like that in solo queue? It just doesn't happen, 5 stacked or not.
True. Crashy?
So I go in now. Okay, so this is like a long-winded thought. Yeah, it's just like where I'm at with the game in general. I've been playing like a ridiculously low amount of pred. I basically like don't play at all. And it's funny because I'm trying to be really particular with the way that I word my thoughts on the game. And so I have to always say, like, I don't actually think the game's in trouble. I don't think that like what I'm experiencing feels existential, and I'm not really worried. But the way that I want to play the game, it doesn't exist right now. Like the things that I want and the experience that I want, it's like it's not really feasible to even have that desire, because we're like just living the growing pains of early access. And the truth that Zygor said about like when you're good, you're practically punished, it exists. It absolutely exists. Like you're gonna get big swings on MMR ranges. You're gonna be used to balance out the MMR of the team that you're on. You're gonna get people that have inflated MMR, like in duo pairings, trio pairings, that are now paired with you, who are way lower than they're what they're being represented in the game. And the kind of like competitive or at least even closer matches that I'm looking for, if they were to actually tune the matchmaking, it would be so few and far between, or would take so long to find, that I'm not even sure that would even be a good change right now. So it's like the way that I feel about the game and the matches is that like I feel like it feels really bad to play right now. Like most matches that I play it's weird. I feel like I get 2 matches. I get like 40-minute grueling losses, or I get like 11-minute surrenders. And like that's like what my matches feel like. And sometimes the 11-minute surrenders are the enemy team, and sometimes it's my team because they just like outvote me. And I guess that not 11 minutes, it would be a little bit later if they're outvoting me. But so like the games that I want to play, or like the competitive side of what I want to do like just doesn't really exist in the game right now, and everything just it's going to just take time. And so again, I think the part that I lean on the most is like, I'm not actually worried. I'm not like, oh my God, the matchmaking's so bad, they need to fix this. I don't want to put that like hardcore stamp on it, go post on Reddit how bad the game needs advertising and how bad we need more players. Like, I'm not doing any of that, because realistically what the game needs is time. Like, it just needs more time. And I don't think these issues are actually solvable right now. The solution is players, and the solution of getting players in right now is not a good solution. Like, hard marketing the game right now or doing a free to play weekend is like, that's a really bad idea. So yeah, it's just kind of like I'm doing like these smaller breaks or like this like little mini hiatus, and I'm still playing, but I just haven't been playing as much because I just think it's like what's best for me. But I'm not actually that worried.
And I'm actually gonna side with you 100% here, because I'll be honest, I feel the same way, even though I'm not necessarily looking for that ultra competitive tournament ranked vibe, right? Like, I still enjoy that side of the game, but even just on the casual side, like, I want to have a casual game here and there, right? I've been slowly over the past 2 to 3 weeks playing less and less, and I still come back, I still give it a try. I might make a raging post on Twitter, I'm fucking done with this, I'm not playing until next update. And then you'll see me in there the next day again, very masochist style, trying that shit all over, right? And I'm with you, man. Like, I still enjoy the game for what it is, but the quality of my matches, bro, is absolutely insane. It's to the point that I'm literally sitting here and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go play this other Jedi game for the next 5 hours. I'd rather sit there and just AFK hack and slash instead of play Predecessor, just because of the quality of the matches. And like, I did a match right before the Predcast. Actually, I did a duo queue match, and it literally was 2 versus 5. The solo, non-existent. He might have been the Crayola guy, right? Our support and our jungler were clearly on comms with each other, because those two were moving like hip tied throughout the whole match, but not helping out in any team fights, just kind of playing their own game sort of vibe. And it was just to the point that I was like, fuck, bro, can this game just over? We ended up winning, right? Ironically, our duo ended up carrying, but it was horrible. I think it was Feppy. I was trying not to say a name, but Feppy was in that match. But it was absolutely horrible. And we're literally sitting there wondering, are we going to be able to 2v5 this shit? Because it's honestly just so fucking bad of a match. It was very unfair. But eventually, you know, we carried long term. We just had to ride it out long enough. But it was just, like, honestly, after playing that match, I don't want to play another match of Predecessor for the rest of tonight. Just being honest. I don't know if you guys share sentiments like that whenever you get into those matches.
So this kind of perfectly ties into what I wanted to bring up, and it kind of ties into the competitive night thing that they kind of recently announced. But like something that Just Road just said in chat is having new players play with people who have 100+ hours is good for the game. Either it might ruin the game for them. And I agree. And a perfect example of this with the competitive nights, the first week they did it, Survivor was stacked with, Survivor's team. And they had like the first game they played was against Lakenator, and it was pretty competitive. And I think they actually lost. But the next like 4 or 5 games they played were against, like, I was looking up the teammates or the teams after the games, and they're playing stuff like bronze and silver ranked for whatever that means players. And there were like a couple games where Survivor froze the wave at his turret at like level 3. And then the ADC and support couldn't walk up to farm it for like 15 minutes. And I just watched that. I messaged Smokey in the chat. I'm like, I hope you're watching this, because this is why you need to have MMR taken into account for like competitive nights or for new players in general, because these players that are getting frozen for 15 minutes, I guarantee you are not having fun. They'll probably get off after this because they're just getting hazed essentially. They're learning nothing. They can't even say they're getting better because they're just so much better than them. It's like there's nothing to really even gain because they're just playing into a brick wall basically.
I have to devil's advocate this one, I think. Because if it's competitive nights that's meant to act like an isolated event, how do you pre-take like existing MMR into that when the actual matchmaking of that mode is supposed to be based on that in-mode win-loss? So like, for example, if did you say Lake's team won the first game?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say Lake's team won first game.
They were
That
going
means
up against
Survivor's team
that
was
lost.
0-1. They probably went against an 0-1 team. So I think it makes sense that they probably went against a not very good team. And hypothetically, it would get better for that team that then falls to 0-2 because they're going to then face a team that's also like 0-2 or 0-1 or something like that. I don't exactly know how it works.
I mean, it makes sense the way you're saying it.
All that said, I have a lot of other gripes about competitive night, but I'm not sure how much they could like tighten up that experience whenever it is supposed to kind of like be within that like isolated like thing.
I just can't
that's
see
tough.
players wanting to do that every week when the MMR for competitive nights was supposed to reset every week. Because you just like the chances of them actually queuing into Lakenator's team and Toasty, and it was just random chance. They all queued as soon as it unlocked, and they just happened to get placed against each other. But they could have played against, whatever random team. Who knows what would have happened, right?
So I'll throw in my like what I saw, right? Because the first competitive nights, I didn't even get a chance to play it because all of the homies were already playing with their stacks, right? Like I got on too late. I was doing some shit. And I was like, yo, let's play. Oh, I'm already with a stack. Let's play. I'm already with it. I'm like, God damn it, bro. Okay, so I just don't get to play the first competitive night. Second competitive night, way ahead of the game. I started messaging people in the morning. I was like, you better be fucking available at 7 o'clock, okay? Like, I'm not skipping this week. And then we go into it. We went 2-0, and then third match was against Empty squad without Empty, basically, right? So if you go based off of the MMR on like a City or whatever, right? It was the majority of my team probably averaged around 1,700, giving everybody that was just in the squad, right? And then the majority of their team averaged like 2,200. But again, that's what we get. You know what I mean? Like I chose homies to get on and play. My support wasn't even. He had like 5 total support games ever in the game. It was like, fuck it, bro. We're just getting on for competitive night and we're playing YOLO. If we win, we win. We lose, whatever. But the moment that they went up against good players that are like, hey, that's a support main. It literally got to the point where after that match, my entire team got off. My entire team were like, all right, nah, I'm not doing this shit. Peace.
So yeah, I liken the experience of competitive nights to say like an open bracket tournament, right? Like when you're a new team diving into an open bracket, like the whole point is you have to prove yourself. Like there's no free pass on potentially facing Immune round 1 or facing Royalty round 1, right? Like it's like, oh shit, bracket hit, like that's who you get kind of thing. So I feel like competitive nights kind of hits that note for me where it's like hey, if you're diving in and the first team you get's like Royalty Immune, it's like tough titty, like that shit sucks, but like you're gonna get stomped, and then hopefully the matchmaking of that system is working well, so that way your next following games aren't so bad. That said, Feppy said I can directly contradict this. We played the same team 2 games in a row and we're undefeated, so that doesn't sound like that was working good. My
2
gripes
games in a row.
Yeah, that's not obviously that's not good because I don't think that's supposed to be how it works, or at least it shouldn't. But my thought on competitive nights was it's immediate. Like there was 2 reasons why I think it was like a complete failure. There's absolutely no reward for it, so it's like, we could just scrim and like, there's like getting on that little leaderboard doesn't really matter because you don't get anything for it. And then the second thing is like if it's not at minimum no mirror pick draft, then there's no reason to play it because it's just not competitive. Like 2 people, having mirror picks it's not competitive. So those were my big criticisms for competitive night. And when they actually recently announced that they are like, like cutting it to pull it down, I think that's a good thing because I think leaving it up in that way, like the really good players aren't going to play it anyways. Like they're just going to bow out of it because they saw how it ran the first couple times, and everybody else can play it. But even then, you don't really get anything for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Oh, there he goes. Holy shit. What's up, Bearded? Bearded, weren't we on the same team when we did that shit?
We were. Yeah, right? It was you, me, and Sane, and Immune, and SG.
And then after the third match, everybody just fucking dipped, basically. And then me and Bearded were like, you want to do one more just as a duo, casual, YOLO?
Yeah,
fun?
everyone dipped, but we didn't have time to. It was already done. By the time we had a late start. You were getting your computer set up. I had my daughter's softball game, so we got a late start and do it anyways. And we did 2 games against the same team. Our first 2 games against the same team. Then our third game was against the best players that ever played the game. Just kidding. But Empty's boys, EU boys. So it was a little rough on that one, but I actually enjoyed it. And maybe that's just me because I normally don't play. I've never, actually competed in any of these tournaments that Fault had, that Preds had, that PTOs had. I haven't competed in any of them. So this is my first time competing in something a little bit more competitive, like we're actually like being sweaty, call outs, everything. But I guess that's also why I enjoy these games, because it's team based. Like if I'm solo queuing, I'm just playing the game to play the game, and I'm having fun doing that too. But I'm all about team based. I'm all about call outs and setting, hey, this guy's here, this guy's there, doing all that stuff. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I would love to do more of that. But then you get the negative aspect. If I 5-stack right now into a casual queue, I'm a sweaty 5-stacker and whatever, and I get that negative persona put on me because I want to have fun with my friends.
I think you're kind of like perfectly encapsulating why the idea is good. It was just the execution that was poor, because the notion of like getting to jump in and play competitive with comms against other 5-stacks is perfect. Like that is essentially like beautiful, right? Like it's exactly what we want, because you're right. I do think 5-stacking in public matches is just like a little cringe. It's just when you can get that same experience and have it to where there's like no mirrors, and like where the matchmaking of it, which again, I don't know how it worked. I wasn't really paying attention, and I thought I knew how it worked, but I guess it didn't. When you get those two things where like there's like pretty good matchmaking, the teams you're going to get are like at least on the same win-loss track as you, and you also are like doing like a cool draft that's like closer to like what would happen in a tournament. I think that's like where it will really hit.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I understand where you come from as like a pro player or whatever, that's what you want. But for me, as the silver gold player that I'm eventually going to be, thanks to Joey and Zygor here, both of you guys, appreciate you. But that's I enjoyed. I don't care. The mirror pick's it's never been a bother to me. I can pick, if somebody picked Grux off lane, I pick Grux off lane. All right, may the better Grux win. That stuff doesn't bother me one bit. And I guess maybe as I get higher up in ranking and stuff like that might be something I understand more, might get into. But me being the majority of the player base, I don't really see that being that big of a deal in that situation. Like, I get where you're coming from, I understand it, but like, I don't see that big a deal in it.
Really quick, Bearded, introduce yourself officially for everybody watching.
Sorry. For those you don't know, I am the Bearded Wolverine, your Michigan Wonder. Excited to be here. Sorry I'm late. My daughter had a makeup softball game that came out of nowhere on a Wednesday. But we're here. We're going to have fun. And I can't wait to catch up with what I missed in the topics and then continue on. So,
yeah, I'll be honest with you. We've been just kind of hitting random subjects in the meantime, just kind of killing, right? Waiting for you to get here, just stalling.
Appreciate it.
But basically right now, as you just jumped in, we're basically talking about how Omega decided to officially shut down the competitive nights temporarily, right? Like they're like, hey, and they actually did a nice little post about it, and I'll put it up on the screen so people can just kind of get the gist of that as far as the paragraph goes. But they just straight up said, it's like, hey, so it wasn't as we intended. We got a lot of feedback, a little bit scuffed. We're going to work on it, and we'll try to reiterate, which kudos.
I love that about a beta. Yeah, I love that. They get the feedback, and then they take it, and they don't just sit on it. They don't just like, okay, thank you for the feedback, and then not do anything with it. They take the feedback and like, okay, wait a minute. This isn't the way we want it to be. We got to do something, and whatever that might be, maybe it was putting in, in a mirror draft system that where you don't have the mirror drafts, but all right, but maybe that's going to take a little bit. So they're going to shut it down for now. I don't know, whatever it might be, that they just realize, hey, this isn't what we want it to be. So instead of it getting more negative looks, let's just bring it down, and we'll bring it back in a better situation.
I think it's the best thing they could have done. And also to also gas up Omega, I think one of the biggest thing that Pred has is Omega. Like their handling of things, like, listen, they're humans and they're building shit, and like sometimes their ideas are going to land and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're going to completely redesign 80 carry items and they're all going to be completely broken, and that's totally fine. It's how do you respond to those things when they happen? Because I have seen, and this is probably my biggest gripe when it comes to being like a user, a player to the developer, I have seen games die because of pride. And that is so frustrating. It's so frustrating watching something so amazing just get ripped to shreds patch after patch after patch because a dev team is too proud to just say, you know what, we missed the mark on this one. And that's all it takes sometimes, because I think you'd be surprised that like at least a good portion of any game community is usually pretty understanding when you treat them with respect. And so like coming out and saying like, hey, you know what, this isn't what we wanted it to be. We heard y'all's feedback. We're going to work on that. Boom. Perfect.
So something
go ahead, Zygar. No, go ahead.
Something that I talked about with Windu and Joe before the other two you hopped on before we started is that I think this game, when it goes full release, if it doesn't launch with some kind of casual mode like ARAM or some other kind of custom mode that they come up with, it is going to be a massive mistake, because that'll be the outlet that players can go to where they don't have to get stomped on. And also, I think that ranked should be locked off for X amount of games or until you reach a certain level for new players as well. That way they can get a handle of how to play the game and what the characters all do before they just go in blind and ultimately like kind of ruin everybody's ranked experience by essentially guaranteeing that they're going to lose the game not knowing anything.
Right. No, I agree. 100%.
I would say even for the console wave that's going to happen hopefully sometime in the future, we will really want a casual game 100% for them, because console players are known to be kind of casual players in general. So it doesn't make sense in my head to bring this large crowd of console players but not have a platform or a space for them to actually casually play the game and have fun, right? So
that was the nicest way to throw shade at console players. Like, Joe, you can't. You can't.
Like when
casual console players are shitters. Let's get it out of the way. They need get them out of my life.
I never say console players can't be competitive. It's just I mean, what you like? I'm pretty sure when you guys start playing video games for the first time, you guys probably play on the console, like a Nintendo, a DS, or whatever kind of thing, right? It's just that when people start to play games for the first time, they go look at the consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo kind of thing. Going gaming on PC is kind of like skipping some steps along the way, kind of thing, right?
I feel like console is like it's like the rite of passage for like a diehard gamer, right? Like you got to hit console. Like the barrier for entry cost wise is lower. You know, it's like what the parents bring to the household. You know what I mean? So
my parents were gonna buy me a gaming PC. I'll tell you that right now. That wasn't happening.
Dude, I don't know. Then again,
I had to buy my own car. All right, they weren't gonna buy me a gaming PC.
I was gonna say some of these kids I went to school with, I had like 16-year-olds driving like brand new Camaros in my high school class, and I was like, dude, who are you?
What state did you go to high school in?
Dude, I went to high school in Texas. Like in Texas? Like in Houston. Yeah, I'm in Houston. And I got a 97, dude.
I drove lifted trucks there.
No,
I was going to say they showed up in the horses, bro. Chill out.
Okay, to be fair, 50% is like lifted trucks or horses. But I drove a 97 F-150 and I was like in like 2008 or something, and dude, there was like kids with like brand new Camaros, so it wouldn't surprise me if like 16-year-old John gets a $4,000 PC or something. I don't know, but yeah, not the norm for sure.
See, now a 97 F-150, that was like the cool truck when I was in school. I graduated in 05. Like that would be something, man. Like, hey, it's not classic, but it's still an older car. Like,
and it was a stick shift too.
There
stick
you go.
shift F-150. I loved it. I love that truck. But yeah, I think a casual game mode and whether it's for the console discussion or not, I think it's a casual game mode is a beautiful thing, because there are people, and I think we can all just like, this is just like a fact. There are people that would play this game if it's not super sweaty. Like, and there, or I should have said that. I should have said that differently. There are people that will probably never play the game if there isn't a casual mode. That's how I should have worded it.
I mean, you look at League of Legends. Most of the players only plays ARAM. They never touch the 5v5. They only play
Smite. Look at Smite.
Look at Smite. Smite's alive still because the casual game modes are a lot of fun.
What's more popular, Joust or Arena?
Arena is the most popular by far, and the majority of Smite players are console.
And guess what, dude?
There's no casual game mode, and nobody's playing it.
From the business standpoint, you want all of them people. You want all of them. So to not make it would be a mistake. And I don't know. I feel like, because I don't know. I've never played like Joust or Arena. That's not true. I actually have played them, but I don't really know much about them. I don't know what it takes to make a good casual mode for a MOBA. Surely it can't be as hard as making like a 3-lane serious mode, right? So like, I think that like I would, if I was Ometa, I would be really working on that. Like,
I think Ometa already has an ARAM map made. It's the practice map.
Well, yeah, technically, yeah.
That practice map is already beautiful as is.
That is
You don't need to
definitely
do
like a
much
little
more to
joust
it.
map. Not ARAM, but like a joust
if they
map.
remove
Yeah.
the jungle camps,
Yeah,
and
that
make
could be
a
a-
cliff.
Yeah.
Well, no, because joust. I mean, for ARAM, yes, no jungle camps on that one, or maybe something limited. But as far as joust, like again, very popular in Smite. I know League of Legends back in the day had its Twisted Tree line, for example, wasn't as popular. But having some sort of a jungle while you have objectives, while there's the main lane that you're just constantly fighting, that would be a dope match. And I know plenty of people that would just play that all the time.
You could technically take that same map, leave it as is, and there's joust, and then like Zygo were saying, cut some things out of it, which is going to be better for rendering, and just put a cliff there instead. Take the jungle camps out, and now it's just an ARAM, and it's literally just one lane, and it's got a little couple curves to it, so you can't it's not just straight line. You're just like throwing Decker bombs all the way down, from core, and getting kills. You got to make be positioned. It's a perfect map. It's already beautiful as is. Like, it's ready to go. Like, it shouldn't take much to integrate that system. So it's already there.
I mean, if they want to go the minimalist route, then yeah, I think do that. If they do have the time and resources to put in, and they're not too swamped like getting other big core things done, then yeah, make a mode. I do think it is one of those things that like I don't even think I'll play it. Probably it may be a little bit for content or like to de-stress or throw in between my matches, but I think like even me being like the more competitive person that I don't really think I'll play it much. I think it's like a necessity for free-to-play launch, because like why run the risk of losing casuals because you don't have it, right? So like find a way to fit that in, like whatever the casual mode that you can work on or can feasibly get in whenever free-to-play happens. I would highly suggest that being the play.
So with that situation, I see this in conversation going in chat here. Mr. Snack says the problem is that it would split the very limited player base. And then Joey brought up at the same time, the player base is slowly dwindling down because there is no space for casual players to enjoy the game. So with that, my question is, when we have the competitive nights, right? The last 2 weeks that we had competitive nights, how long were the queues for casual matches there? I don't know, because I won the first competitive nights was NFL draft. I was there doing that, so I wasn't trying to queue up. So my question is to anybody who didn't do competitive nights that was playing on a Thursday night, what was the queue times for you then, right? Because that's already splitting up the.
My queue times were normal.
Yeah, the first week I didn't play either night, but I played on Thursday, the first night of the competitive weeks, and they felt pretty the same. I don't think there were tons of people doing it, to be honest.
So again, I'm not disagreeing with Mr. Snacks. It is the queue times are going to lengthen a little bit, but we're also thinking about we're going to bring in players because it's something more. Hey, we're going to bring back players and we're going to bring in players when we bring in something like this. That first week or two is going to be a little long because people don't know about it. But once we're able to advertise it and people be playing it, and us streamers are going to stream it and show it off, you'll be able to then get more people to come in and play it.
Well, I imagine it would be coming out with the free to play launch anyway. So like it just is going to be more people. Like it's like free to play launch is like opening the damn floodgates and just like seeing like the crazy numbers flood in.
I guess I wasn't talking about this being free to play. I was talking about this being like this needs to happen before free to play. I guess I was understanding, but either way, that works.
It could happen before free to play. I don't know, because I guess I should throw this in there. I would argue that there's probably a few reasons why the player base is like dwindling or getting smaller. Not having like a casual mode could definitely be part of it, but like for me, like it's not a lack of a casual mode that's like failing to retain me. It's like I just need progression. I need something to do. So I think that like
and they go hand in hand 100%. Like casual players like to grind stuff up or feel like they're making progress towards something, and if you don't, and just the account level we have right now is just not enough at the moment.
Yeah, no, we definitely need like a mastery system, something we can grind for, a more of a season pass. This one to me is very lackluster in my opinion with what you're getting out of it. Like at least with the last one, you at least saw the Kira skin that you were grinding for. This one, you're like, you're getting a recolor is what it says. I mean, that doesn't even sound good in comparison to what you were getting. I'm like, at least I was getting a new skin is what it seemed like. So
really
there's
quick,
that
guys.
too.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I gotta go. My daughter's like super sick. She's crying a storm. My girl's sick also. Much love. I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody watching. I will, just because of recording purposes. Yeah. So I'm literally just going to be no cam mode in the chat, right? Because I'm still technically controlling the stream. But much love. Have fun. Kill that shit.
Hey, thanks
have a good night, man.
Take care of the
Have a good night.
All right. But I think the reason my other argument for having it before free to play or for full release, is because this is the perfect time to iron out any of the bugs that come with it, right? You're going to implement a new game mode. There's going to be bugs that are involved. Let's get those bugs ironed out. So then when we do have that full release, we're able to be like, here we go. You have a smooth game for all the people that come with that. So I think that would be the better way to implement it, in my opinion.
I think I'm a little adverse to it coming out before free to play. And I think if that's the worry, I would hope that IT would get that, internal tester could get that. But that is just because of the splitting queues concern, which I don't think it'd be that bad. It also depends on what the mode is, because if it's a 3v3 mode, then that's only 6 people, so it's it doesn't hit it that hard. Right. Honestly, either way, I don't think either which one is an existential issue, right? If they came out with a new mode tomorrow, that's cool. I think it's fine. As I guess my bigger thought, I actually don't really care as much, is as long as there is one for free to play, because I think that would be the biggest missed opportunity. So come out with it tomorrow, cool. Come out with it with free to play, also cool. I think it should exist though, for sure.
All right. All right. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that free to play and full release are not one and the same. They can be two different things.
Not necessarily.
Right.
I think they'll probably be the same, but yeah, you're right. They could be different.
Right. Because my only point is Fault went free to play, but that wasn't their full release, right? They still had a full release coming up afterwards. So it can't happen that way.
I think if they go to free to play before full release, it would be a massive mistake, because we've talked about this before, but if players come to the game and it's not full release, and because it's not full release, the game isn't there, a lot of those players will never come back.
Well, so that depends, because
to be high enough quality, I think.
I think that's the point that I would say is important, having the game at a certain standard, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the free-to-play version couldn't be that. Also, I never quite can put my finger on it because I haven't researched it enough. There's a benefit, and I know Fortnite did it for years. There's a benefit to staying beta or early access on consoles, and I never know what it is. I think it has something to do with their patch certifications.
Yes, you're able to push patches more often. It's basically it's almost like they're okay if you're in a beta phase. They're okay with keeping you're on a certain server, if I remember correctly, right? The way I understood it talking to some devs. So you're on this certain server that's able to go down and come up whenever needed, because you're pushing patches, right? But once you go full release, now you have to work with, especially if we're going to be on Sony with PlayStation, we're going to be with I don't know how Xbox works, being the fact that it's already on PC, and Microsoft works the same, I would assume. I don't know, but so you multiple consoles and PC, you have to work on all. So Steam, Epic, Microsoft, and Sony, you got to work with all 4 of them to get all your patches pushed at the same time. So it's more of a scheduling window that you got to figure out, so your patches don't get pushed as often. So that's why you stay on beta longer, right?
Yeah,
and that's why people need to get rid of that persona that the fact that it's early access. Early access means it's full release, and that's not what it means. Right. There are AAA companies like Epic that take advantage of that with Fortnite, but indie dev companies need that, that early access title for certain situations.
I would say that I think it's likely that free to play happens before full release, because full release is we're big dick swinging, we're ready to show, we're ready to push this. This is a full release title.
I wouldn't know what that's like.
Me neither. But no, so yeah, I think it's likely, but I think the sentiment of hey, the product that gets pushed free to play needs to be a pretty damn good product for retention, right? I think if you launch free to play tomorrow, the game's fucked. That's why they're not going to do it. But seriously, that shit, it would crash and burn, because there's just nothing to do. People would get in, they'd be like, oh, the gameplay's good. They'd play 30 hours, maybe less, and then they'd be like, I'm really bored. I'm not doing anything. So
there's nothing to spend money on in this game right now. I'm sorry, but these skins are not money worthy, in my opinion. I'm just being honest. There's gonna be some people who are gonna buy something like that, the Rampage skin, right? The Rock Golem Rampage skin. That's the one good skin they have in this game. That's one that people are going to go in and spend money on. But the rest of them, they're only going to get them if they're Sparrow mains or if they're like there's certain I'm maining Sevarog right now, and there's a secondary Sevarog skin. It's green. I'm a Michigan fan. I don't like green. I'm not buying it. I have no reason to buy it.
So I'm kind of wondering how long it'll take Omeda to figure this out, because Riot Games stopped making skins under like a certain tier. It's like the $15 tier, because nobody bought them. It wasn't even like just the recolors, because they stopped making recolors like years and years ago because nobody bought those. But they stopped making like even like the minor adjustment skins, like Kira's red skin. They stopped making those kinds of skins because nobody bought those either.
It is funny, right? Because I've always thought about this. The older a game gets and the more skin content comes out, it dilutes the quality of the ones that are pre-existing, because like when the newer, cooler shit comes out, it's like, what the fuck do I want to go buy the older stuff? Exactly. So I do think that the sentiment of like those like really low grade skins are actually not, there's like, I didn't even know that League had done that, but I don't value them at all and will never buy them because they're so close to the base skin. Why the fuck would I spend money on that? And that's just a me thing personally. So unless the recolor, now hear me out. I have to throw this out there. I don't know what happened, but I am a massive fan of the color yellow. If shit gets colored yellow, a lot of the times I will buy it. So sometimes that wins. I don't know why, dude. I don't know why. I love the color yellow. So sometimes that does win, but it's got to be a pretty damn good recolor. But yeah, in general, like I don't see much value in those skins. So who knows? Maybe that could be something Omeda learns early, and then they don't do.
I agree. You don't have to put a lot of resources into some of the lower tier skins, but I think putting some lower tier skins out there is still good. Whether that be just something that you can grind for with, just to continue playing the game, right? Because you're going to have players like before my son started playing Fortnite, I never put money into games, right? I bought the game itself and then I played the game. Whatever I was able to earn by playing the game, I was able to get. But if there's something you tell me, hey, I got to buy that skin, I'm not putting money into it. That's just how I've always been. I've always been frugal with my money in that situation. But if you give me something to actually play the game, and if I play enough, I'm able to unlock this with either in-game currency or just by the fact that you played 50 games in this month, you get something, right? And I'm just putting numbers out there. It doesn't have to be that way. But I think putting some of those lower tier skins in there just for the casual gamer that just wants to grind and play, that's still something that continue, because that's another way your game continues going. Is the more people that play your game, the more advertisement you still get money out of it, just not actually direct money by somebody buying a skin.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the free progression of unlocking things like with like free to play currency is a pretty good reason to have them around, I suppose.
Yep.
So speaking of earned currency, Morgesh is coming out on Thursday, the 16th. I think it's Thursday.
Is that what it is? Thursday? It is the 16th. Is it Thursday? That's
Tuesday. It's always a Tuesday release.
Yeah, it should be a Tuesday. It should be a Tuesday. You say Thursday, it throws me off, but it's Tuesday. Tuesday's the 16th.
Oh, it's Tuesday. Okay, I was thinking it was Thursday for some reason. But anyway, so Thursday. Joe's back. Hey, Joe.
The dogs.
So they said that in the early access collectors bundle, it would include the first 25 characters. I think Morgesh is the 26th character.
Correct.
So this is the character we're going to have to pay for. But there's also no system currently in place to earn currency to unlock characters for free. So
I am assuming on this upcoming blog post revealing Morgesh, like giving out the kit, they're going to announce the free to play currency.
I would think they would have to.
I think it would be pretty nuts to only do plat releases for now. But that's the way that the game's been moving anyways. Like if you've actually been paying attention and you remind yourself what the actual bundles are, then you knew that Hero 26 is going to be paid, and they don't have a free to play currency. But in the word is escaping my mind, in the roadmap, one of the bullet points was hero acquisition. So hero acquisition speaks directly to, well, how do you acquire the heroes? Well, we know how we acquire the heroes. We get them for free in the 25, but since that's going away, it insinuates that free to play currency is going to come out. So I will say, I'm not usually too hard on Omeda, but I do think they've been a little too quiet about this because some people haven't even thought about this. So I wish they would have announced the free to play currency like earlier, but it is coming. Like it's about to hit us. So we'll see how they do it.
The next question is, what do we think is a fair price for a full character?
For platinum? Because we can't really speculate the game rate. Oh, God, that makes me have to remember how much platinum is.
Well,
I believe 1,000 platinum is $10.
Is it that standard?
Yeah.
I'm also curious how they're gonna do the free currency, because in League of Legends, like the blue instance, you can get some of it, I think, from matches, but a lot of it you get from like opening up chests, and then you discard like the champion shards, right? It's like there's different ways you can get the free currency in that game, right? But right now in like Predecessor, I think there's only gonna be one way, and that's just play the game. So how they're gonna really balance?
I'm hoping that they launch it with like some challenges too, maybe like weekly challenges, right? Like a list pops up on the home screen and it's like weekly challenge. Like, I mean, look, I think there's some games that'll do like daily challenges. You might have like 1 or 2, and then your weekly challenges is like a list of like 5 to 8 or something, right? So then you have like this thing to go after, and that could be a pretty cool way for engagement as well. But yeah, I do hope that the gain rate is small on just playing, because that means, dude, if you grind, you're gonna get something. That would be cool. They can't make it too high though, because then that's just bad for business. But I definitely hope that there's like
nice in the roadmap. Before I answer Zygor's question, how much we think it's going to be, in the roadmap, it does say hero acquisition, but it also says improved store, right? So I think with the improved store, we're going to get that other currency, in my opinion. I could be wrong, could be completely wrong. We could be only doing platinum, and it'd be weird. I think Omega would be wrong to do that. But yeah, so the hero acquisition and improved store, I think that goes hand in hand of how we're going to get like a in-game currency that we'll be able to have besides just platinum. But it's tough to answer that question, because you're sitting here thinking like, all right, how much is Morgash going to be? But how much is an original hero going to be as well? Are they going to charge equal to what, so a hero that's already pre-made and then their own hero, or is their own hero going to cost more?
It should all be the same. It should all be the same. I think splitting the cost is weird. I know that they're using older assets, but like they're still developing the game and like making the game. And I don't think that they should compensate themselves less because a hero existed in the past. Like a hero existing in the past is like what, like everybody wants all those heroes to come back, so we should be excited about them. I don't think that we should punish the devs or even question the notion of them pricing their heroes the same. I would just expect like, hey, MOBA character price, right? Like I think that's fair.
So I looked it up. The hero cost in League is about $9.75 for a brand new hero. I would assume that it's probably easier to develop a new character. Well, if the production quality of Omega was on par with the production quality of Riot, I think that it would be harder to make a new character for Predecessor, just because making that 3D character is going to be probably take more effort. But obviously League's production value is much better. Like all of their characters are fully voice acted, not like voice acted like Kira. Like I'm talking, these characters have like 100 different lines of dialogue each. They have interactions with different characters in the game, things like that. So those characters cost $10. I think probably for what you're getting, a $10 starting point would be decent for the characters. If they end up getting higher production quality later on, I could see them charging more, because like League characters, the older heroes cost significantly less than the new characters do. I think like the old, like original 40 characters that came out with only cost like $3 or $4 maximum.
So I was thinking 10 to 15 is what I was thinking, right? Because I know like the Gideon skin that they dropped when they first opened the store, that's a 1600 platinum skin, right? And it's like, so that's a $16 skin is what you're saying. So does that skin cost more than a hero?
That is not a $16 skin, but there are some skins in League that do cost more than heroes in League as well, though.
Yeah, so, I would almost always expect like the bigger skins to cost more than a hero.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think that skin should be $16, but then that is what it's priced at with, right? 1600 platinum. Am I wrong, or like that's?
I think that skin is as a test the waters kind of skin. They want to see who.
But in game though, am I wrong? I think I remember that correctly. That's what it was. That's what it's priced at in game right now.
Yes,
$1,600, right?
$16.
Yeah. Right. So that'd be a $16 skin if we're talking about actual US dollars, comparison to that. So yeah, I think that is crazy in comparison. But yeah, I was thinking between $10 to $15 for a hero is what I would guess that they're going to charge.
I think it's fine for skins to be $16 as long as they're actually worth $16. They're like, I think they had ultimate skins in League that were like $40, $50. but they
Right.
well, the recent ones weren't
That
so
does-
much, but they used to be much higher
do
quality.
everything.
Right. And then, I mean, I just don't want them to get to the, I'm okay with spending a little bit more money on a skin, $16, maybe a little bit more, 20, whatever. I don't want them to get to Valorant range and all of a sudden just think that hey, this skin's $50. Like, whoa, hold up. Right. Like that's just a little asinine in my opinion. I don't understand why people are spending that much money on Valorant. It doesn't make sense to me, but there's people who do it.
The whales, man, the whales fund the projects a lot of the time.
Right.
I would, I can see two potential possibilities, actually really three. And the third one, I'm going to kick to the end. The first one I could see them doing is maybe releasing heroes in the earlier lifespan of the game, really cheap. Like I could see them launching heroes at like $3 to $5 because they're trying to grow their product. That could be a viable strategy. I could also see them coming out with a $10 to $15 price point because they're incredibly confident in the product. I think that actually either one would be fine. Like I would be comfortable if they launched heroes like $10 to $15 or like a lower price point. The third thought is whether or not they do something like bundles or a god pack from Smite where you buy everything, because they could go that route. It's possible. I don't know if they're interested in that. I can say with full confidence they've had to at least had conversations about it. But
I think that would be a massive mistake.
it's weird because I've always, like the thought behind it is that like if you do that, how does anybody know how much the god pack costs? I don't actually know. I'm sorry.
I think it was like 50 or something. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was around 50.
Let's ballpark it 30 to 50, right? Like let's say it's 50. If you give away every hero and every future hero for $50, you are literally taking a barrel, filling it with money and lighting it on fire. That's what you're doing. But there is a benefit, which is there might be some people that look at that bundle and say, damn, that's a really fucking good deal. And then they buy it and then they stick around because of it. And so I feel like it's one of those things that's like, it's so hard to predict if it's a good play or not, because it's kind of like taking a gamble on the product as a whole and saying, we're really confident that this game can take this financial hit because we know we're going to retain players and we know that the people that buy these packs are going to get that value forever. And they're going to keep coming back time and time again. And we're going to make up that revenue in skins.
Yeah.
And that could be a business strategy.
They stick around, or they at least come back with every hero release because they know that I got that hero. Yeah. Let me go test it out. Right. So it's going to bring them back in a sense with that, because like, you get somebody who didn't buy that hero pack and like there's a new hero release. I would have to buy it anyway. So I'm not worried about it.
It's definitely one of, like I said, I know for sure they've had conversations about it because like, why wouldn't they? Will they go that way? I don't know. We'll see.
So, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on where are we at with topics. Okay. So let's get this hard one out of the way real quick. We got Windows streaming, so I'm not able to pull the screenshots up here. But it's a tough topic. There's again, this Fox McCloud last week brought a little tough topic to us and brought it up, right? So somebody posted in the Predecessor Discord under feedback, and it was talking about somebody being toxic and if their players are getting banned or whatever, and then posted screenshots of what people are saying. They X out the person's name, but showed that people are saying things that are really bad. There was a mod in there talking to them about it. And somebody said in there, and I agree with it. Somebody said in there that we need something that just kind of just gives us that, hey, this person's been taken care of. X person, whatever that name is, blah, 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 has been taken care of because of racist comments, because of whatever comments, because of whatever. This person has been handled, right? Like this. And even you don't even have to say that what they've been handled, just whatever. This person has been taken care of. Like, and I've said the same thing when I was playing Fault, and I get there's only one person, and for Fault, there's only one person taking care of all of the reports, right? So I'm hoping Omeda's got more than one person, right? But there should be something, if you report somebody in game, the next time you load in, and that person's been handled with a ban system, whatever, you should get a notification. Thank you for your report. Your report has been, whatever. We took care of that person. Right? Just to give that feedback to let you know that your report is actually doing something. right?
I think it's incredibly important. I think it is very, very important because what essentially it boils down to for me is trust, right? If you have a system in place where I can report people, I'm gonna view that system one of two ways. Either one, I actually trust you and know that you're doing something with it, or two, I feel like it's nothing but placebo and you're just putting it there to appease my mind and appease me for knowing that something was shitty was happened. And I want to say that I think I saw something either from like Overwatch or League of Legends like years ago where they did like a study and it actually proved that like giving feedback on reports like led to like a better experience or like a better perception of experience because people felt like they were heard. They felt like their experience and the way that they felt about it was validated. They felt respected. They felt like they had trust with the developers. And I think that just leads to like a better community and a better culture around the game as a whole.
Yeah.
And League of Legends has a no naming and shaming policy, so they won't ever tell you who's banned. But I really don't like that because one, like, I will report people and then I'll go back and I'll check their OP to see if they're still playing games. And I'll get those notifications every once in a while for like it says like X players have been taken care of, but like in one session of League, if I play 5 games, I'll probably send reports in like 2 out of the 3 games because people are just the worst online, right? Mm-hmm. And if I don't know who's getting taken care of, like probably nothing's actually getting taken care of. And so, like, I don't know. I feel like you should let me know who's getting taken care of. But also at the same time, I looked up the accounts because the guy didn't do a very good job of hiding the names of the players that were in this. So I looked it up. It was on the EU server. And each of those players were, I would say average players. They've had probably like 300-400 games played. But they're still playing games. But I just like, I don't know how much I personally really even care about toxicity in the game because I have a mute option, and if somebody's being toxic to me, I just hit the button and then I don't have to see it anymore. So
this is always my thing. I think that like there's a weird thing that happens online, and it's like people will jump to like social media or to some outlet where they can have their shitty experience validated by others. It's almost like they need it. So they'll take to Reddit and they'll say X and YZ player were so mean to me. Look at how toxic this is. Look at how shitty this is. And there was literally one. I'm gonna literally spit it out because you can go find it like through like looking at my Reddit history. There was like one, and it was like about a player like talking like literally like citing or saying like pedophilia stuff, which is it's disgusting, right? Like absolutely deplorable, disgusting. I don't stand for that. Nobody fucking stands for that if you're a decent human being. But in that post, I said something like, I don't understand why these posts exist, because bringing that to Reddit is not actually dealing with the problem. Yeah. But what you have to do is you have to report it, moderate yourself, because this is the most important thing to me. Moderate your own experience. Mute the person, block them instantly. Don't deal with them. Don't engage with them. And then make sure that you go through the appropriate and as many outlets as you can to report it to the devs so that way they actually handle it. And that's why I think the feedback thing, having like coming through with reports and having trust with the developers is important, because what I'm always going to do is I'm going to self-moderate first. I'm going to say, dude, that dude's an asshole. Boom, muted. And then I don't even have to worry about it. My experience is fun. Don't let other people steal your joy. This is about life. This is about gaming. Do not let assholes steal your joy. Have fun. Play the game.
That's why I don't play with Crashy.
Exactly. No, it's why I play with dude, 99% of my games I play with chat off, and every now and then I turn chat on and I'm like, this was a mistake. I'm like, I
had a game last night I was playing, and our ADC picked Howie, and instantly the support was flaming him in drafting, was just flaming him. Report this person. This person's, throwing, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm not happy with the pick either.
Anytime somebody picks FaZe.
I'm not happy with the Howie as an ADC pick either, but like, hey, it is whatever. Like, let's just see how he does first. And just start flaming him. And then you continue flaming him in the game. They're both 0-2 and 0. They both have 40 CS. I'm like, well, there's no reason you as a support should have the same amount of CS as your ADC. So you're obviously not helping him succeed no matter what. I'm like, so that's not helping. And then that person comes over to the soul lane and starts taking like my CS. I'm like, and I'm playing Sev, and like you taking my CS is hurting my stacking. I'm like, this isn't helping. Like you are actually the worst person in this situation. I would rather have the Howie ADC than have you as a support right now, because you're actually making it worse for everybody. I was like, but I didn't comment. I just watched the guy go on. I'm like, I actually, if you look at it, at the beginning, you think about, all right, this guy picking Howie, it's not a good pick, but it is what it is. And like, he ended up being the bad guy instead. I'm like, see, this is what you just leave it alone.
So I think the perfect solution to this is actually a twofold attack. And I think that you should take inspiration from both Dota and League, because Xanaso in chat said that there needs to be a low priority queue. So the way that works is Dota has a low priority queue, and when somebody is found to be toxic or abandon a certain amount of games, they're put into this low priority queue. And essentially what happens is low priority queue is a queue only with other people who are in low priority queue. So all, like, if you've seen that Godzilla movie, the dude's like, let them fight. They take all of the toxic people, they put them in a low priority queue, and then you have to win like 5 or 10 games in low priority queue to get back to the normal queue. And if you abandon games in low priority or you're toxic in those, it resets the count. And so it's like hell to try to get out of that. And then also,
the movie comment was so unnecessary, and I can't look past it. It was not beneficial to your talking point at all, but it was really funny. I'm sorry.
But the other thing is, so League of Legends has an honor system, and so if you're toxic, it resets your honor level, and you have to be like honor level 2, I think, to get the end of season rewards. So every year League has end of season rewards. Usually you get like a few crates that you can get skins from. You get like a special honor skin, and then you also, if you are a certain rank, I think it's gold and above, you get the victorious skin, which is earned by having, a high honor and having a high rank at the end of the year. But if your honor isn't high enough because you're toxic or you're leaving games, then you don't get those rewards anymore.
I think systems like that are great, but also require a ton of players. So it's like one of those things that like would, if they do decide to do something like that, will come in time when they know that you can support something like that. Or maybe not. Maybe you throw them in a low priority queue and there's like 7 other people and they just don't find game. I don't know. Who cares? Like, I don't know. Maybe. Interesting thought, though.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. But again, I still want some kind of report, not like them reporting to you that your report did something. And I think that's the best way to do it. That, or because I get you said you're okay with that, Zygor, but I just think the public shaming, I don't think it's needed. It can be. Like, I know PTO had that for a little bit. They had their little shame post that would every week they'd post like, hey, these are the people who got banned for whatever reason, and then they give the description of what they got banned for. But I just think just something to let you know that you actually reported, right? And I think by doing that also helps you because you start to think it's a placebo effect. Like, well, there's no reason for me to report, and then you don't report, and then that toxic person just continues to play, right? So you just don't do it because you don't think there's anything happening. So you get the notification saying, hey, this did something, then you're like, hey, I'm gonna report because I know it's actually doing something.
I'm 100% with you. 100% with you, because I also play Pokemon Unite, and that game has a reporting system. And not only is it just placebo, they never do anything with reports. Like, it's like, I'm not even kidding. Like, they have a 0% report punishment rate. Like, they don't do shit. It's so annoying. And like it's funny because like we like, I think people still use the report function, but like we do it for our damn selves. We just like want to feel something. Like, it's so like sad and just like, oh, I'm just doing this because that was so bad. But yeah, dude, it's the worst, man.
Why report people when you can just make 20-minute YouTube videos about them instead? That's my opinion.
There you go. All right. So we already talked about the dev update with the comp nights, competitive nights. But hero announcement. We do got Morgash coming up. What are your guys' thoughts? We already talked a little bit about how obviously she's going to be the next hero we got to pay for. But what are you guys' thoughts on Morgash? Joey, what do you think her kit's going to be like? Do you think it's going to be the exact same?
Well, I mean, we have kind of this pattern where a lot of the heroes, especially the ones we got after the first month's early access, it's all been like the same core abilities, so core like identity, I think like weapon counters and whatnot. So I'm expecting she might have pretty much almost most of her kit from Paragon, unless it's something spicy and throw in and totally rework the ability in there. But try to remember back in Paragon Mortgage, I think her kit can translate over to Predecessor as well. It's just a matter of what her passive is going to be. It's probably be the newest addition to her kit.
True. Zygor, what are your thoughts on Morgesh?
Okay, so back when I played Paragon, it was my first MOBA, so I wasn't good at the game. But dude, that character is so turbo cancer. She has Epic Games described it themselves as a high damage point and click ability called Mark. And then her hive ability, she throwed a beehive at you. And even with the ridiculous movement speed of Monolith, because I think Morgesh came out in Monolith or like right before, it was almost impossible to not get hit by that ability. And so if you were playing a not ranged character, like if you played Aurora or Countess, or I think Shimby was more of a mid laner back in Monolith, it was almost impossible to play into the character because you couldn't dodge any of her kit to even like lane against it. And so I think that there is a way that it can be balanced. Obviously, like anything can be balanced. If you make the numbers 0 and she does no damage, then she'll be terrible, right? But I don't think there's potential for that to be a very unfun experience getting to that point of balance unless they make adjustments to her kit to not make it as terrible to play against, I guess.
Okay.
I love being the non-Paragon player. It's so fun. It's so fun listening to people talk about these heroes because like they bleed their past experience, and I get it. It makes perfect sense. It's your experience. They bleed their past experience into this game, and I think from a design standpoint, again, didn't play Paragon, have no context of her really. I think it's a huge mistake if they drastically change her, because then people are gonna be like, "What the hell? That was my favorite hero. You fucked it up." Blah 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 blah. So I think that they're probably never gonna do that, where they drastically change something. Maybe one ability, or they make some slight tunes to things. Because
when they do that, it costs a lot of time and money because they have to make new assets. A lot of these heroes we've been getting back, it's kind of reusing the assets, mostly kind of just rebuilding from there on. But if you want to totally rework a hero's kit, that's like making a new hero at that point, right? So from that standpoint alone, too, it definitely would take extra time and effort and money and animating and stuff like that. So I think for the release to feel authentic, they want to keep it as close to the character as they can. But if a character was like disgustingly overtuned, or just like had really like anti-fun things about it, then they can tune those numbers is probably the best way to go about it. That said, I read the announcement. I wanted to make a video for it, so I read the announcement. There's nothing, they didn't do anything else with it. So I did an announcement, and then I jumped to YouTube for my video, and I watched the announcement trailer on Paragon, and then I watched the overview on Paragon. That character looks easy mode. Like, she looks easy. She looks like you're literally just like tapping buttons. And I think that in MOBAs, you always need easy characters, but you usually want to tune them down. Because,
for sure, but Paragon was a MOBA with a roster of like 35 easy characters.
Yeah,
so
that's so what you do with like characters like that is you just tune them down, right? Like you find ways to keep them relevant without becoming a ridiculously powerhouse, like easy character. So I think it'll be cool. I think that it's unavoidable that they're going to bring all these heroes back, because they made that promise. And also, what would be a Paragon remake if they didn't? So yeah, we'll see how they do it, and we'll give our feedback on if it sucks to play against, right?
All right, so Fox McCloud says False Hive rework to the cone was perfect, and I disagree. I'm not saying it might be better for balancing. I'm not a dev. I'm not a tester by any means in that situation. But I actually preferred the actual hive of what Zygor was referencing to in the original Paragon, because I enjoyed, as a mid laner, I enjoyed the long range zone controlling that you could do with it, because you threw the hive and it gave an AoE damage in that area. I thought that was better than just being able to run up and just hit anything in this cone and like, okay, here we go, bam, and then that you got hit with that little damage, how quick that was, right? And I enjoyed the again, it's all about balancing, right? So you throw it down, it could last 3 seconds, it could last 2 seconds, it could last 1 second, whatever. I felt like the fault version is like it was a quick, hey, you did a button, and it's like something happened real quick, and then you're getting DOT damage, and it just, I thought the hive was cool because one, the animation, you're literally throwing a hive and you're getting hit by a swarm of bees, right? If you stand in it, it's very similar to the gag grenade of what Drongo has.
I can't remember. Is she melee or ranged for autos?
She's ranged.
She's short range.
Is it short range? Okay.
It's a short range, yeah.
I think because she's going to be short range, it would be weird to lock one of her, like her the one like zoning ability she has into like a tight cone, because then it like, I feel like that's really exploitable. It's kind of like the Countess problem, where it's like her early game is just super tough because she has to like tough through not having anything like to do in the lane because she's so short range without that like wave ability. So I think being able to throw the swarm out is probably where I would go with it. But also, you're right. You have to tune it right. It could last 3 seconds, it could last 5 seconds. It could be super bursty for a short window of time, or it could have the damage spread out over a longer duration. So right, the circle, it could be a huge circle. So
the hive itself is fine, but then you take into account that she also has a point and click that shits out damage by just clicking on you, and then it gets a little bit more degenerate. So
those all sound just like numbers things to me, right? Like,
yeah,
I think as long as they nail, like, I'm super cool with point and click as long as they nail the numbers. Because if I'm getting point and clicked and I'm half health, and I'm like, hey yo, dude, what's going on here? That's probably not good. So.
It's not just the numbers; it's also the kit in general. Like Paragon Mortgage was kind of like a short range mage in this sense. Like, she didn't really have a great escape. She's not like, doesn't have any long range abilities. They're all kind of sort of short, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And then in the mid lane, we have Howitzer, we have Gadget, we have Gideon. They're all like longer range mages. So yeah, like the numbers can be something they can tune. But Mortgage, but also she has to battle with the range kind of matchups a lot of times. Like, she's probably going to be one of those mages that if she's anything like a Paragon Counterpart, she's going to be kind of like very easy to kind of punish or rather gank too as well. So it's also that to consider.
Right. She does have in her kit though the other ability. I don't remember what it was, which button it was, but it was the ability that she became the swarm in a sense, and she was at that time she was unCCable or whatever, right? It was basically anti-CC or whatever that she had in her kit, and she's able to run through actual heroes. And then anytime she passed through minions or heroes, she did damage to them. So that's another part of her kit. So she does have somewhat of an escape. It just depends on when it's used, whatever. But it's not like, it's nowhere close to a Gideon, teleport, escape, or a Fang Mao, dash by any means.
That ability makes her like unstoppable. Like, you can't get CC'd while you're turning into the bees or whatever, or the insects.
Yeah, it gave you movement speed, and then it made you ghosted so you could walk through heroes and minions, and then you were also unstoppable.
Damn, dude. That's so
if a rampage hit you with a rock, you'd still take the damage from the rock, but you wouldn't get stunned.
Can you pop it like a cleanse, or no? Like, you'll take the full stun if you're not already swarmed?
You couldn't in Paragon, but who knows what Omega will do, because they like the idea of pre-cleansing and post-cleansing. And
that's wild. That's a wild ability. Holy shit.
If you did it beforehand, obviously you're good, right? But if you did it in Paragon, if you got hit by a rock and you popped it, your stun effect is still going through its process, and you're not moving. It actually
dealt damage if you walked through someone too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I watched that on the video. I like the no like unit collision on that, because like, dude, there's like those nasty times where you like, especially on like Rampage, you like jump in front of them and you're like you know what I mean? You're just like, you're doing one of these, and then she's gonna just be like, nah, bro, I ain't playing that game. You know what I mean? Like,
or when Rampage and Richter pin you onto a wall and you can't move.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm interested in it. As an offlaner, I'm scared for it in a sense, because I know even when Fault and in Paragon, she was used in offlane nonstop, and I was like, I just hate going against ranged offlaners. I hate going against mage offlaners. I did that on the competitive nights. I went up against a fucking gadget offlaner that just knew what the fuck to do against me, and I'm like, this is annoying, and all could be. But I, obviously am getting better at offlane. I didn't know too well what to do, but it's all good. So I'm a little worried for it, because I don't want to go up against it. But I'm just happy to see the roster expand. Mm-hmm. So while we're on the topic of roster, we know the next one's going to be an offlaner. Real quick, what are your guys' thoughts on who it's going to be as the offlaner?
It's going to be Kwang or Greystone, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm assuming. I mean, They had those in the polls, which means they were decently along in the development pipeline. One of them's ready to go. They've probably been playing it for weeks in IT. It has to be one of them, I think. Also,
I wouldn't be upset if it was Aurora or Seraph, though.
The beauty of listing it as an offlaner is that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't jungle. So like that could be like a red herring in a sense. I don't know if Kwong or Greystone could jungle. I don't really remember it. I haven't talked about it too much.
Yeah, they can jungle back in Paragon.
Yeah.
So like it could be it could be the red herring of it, right? Because like a lot of those characters have they're like cross compatible in rules, so it could be interesting.
Right. Yep. Aurora. I mean, I want my girl Terra. That's who I want. I want my girl Terra. Bring my girl Terra back. All right. Let's have that. Let's get the community in an uproar and complaining because Terra's here. It also could be Boris.
You know what's funny for me? This is another one of those not being a pred person thing. It's really funny.
A Paragon
person. Sorry. It's really
you are a pred person,
dude. It's really funny when people have this like. It's almost like in their mind they have an order of the characters they want to come out. But like for me, it doesn't matter at all, right? Like you could jumble up the characters 1,000 different times and build 1,000 lists of how they're going to come out, and it's all the same to me because I don't know anything. So like I was in the Discord earlier when they were getting ready to do the announcement, and Carrie was typing an announcement. So everybody was like sitting there staring at the announcement channel, waiting for it to pop, and people are like, it has to be Iggy and Scorch. If it's not Iggy and Scorch, I'm gonna be pissed. And I'm just like, dude, like for some of us that have never played the game, like it really doesn't matter. And also like they have to like release the heroes chronologically somehow, right? So it's like you have to know that like if your favorite's Aurora, she could come out next or she could come out last, right? Like so we're just all gambling on whatever they decide to do with it. So it's really fun to now, see that process.
Aurora is on the PlayStation wish list or whatever. She's on that picture of that wish list. So that kind of alludes to her. But then again, they've already confirmed that all Paragon heroes will be coming out. So does that mean anything necessarily?
So here's the thing. I that image specifically was used by I'm blanking. There's one of the community people at Ometa. She got hired on in November, and for her tweet where she announced that she was joining the community team, she used that image. So that image has existed for a while. So I'm trying not to I don't think people should put too much stock in that specific image where
that's good information
like in the middle. Yeah,
I didn't know because I don't know who you're talking about.
Damn it! I have to find it. I'll find it while we're talking about it.
All right.
So I just hope the characters.
It's Carrie.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's Carrie. Here, I'll even link it to y'all. So she announced that she was joining Ometa in November, and she used that same image.
Who?
Carrie. She's one of the community members at Ometa. So you can actually see this tweet was from back in November 2022, and she used that Aurora image.
I call her Kari is her name. Yeah, that's what I say. Actually, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, I don't either. I could be wrong too.
God! So when you said Carrie, I'm like, what Carrie are we talking about? Twin Blast.
Oh Jesus! Now I'm so anxious. What if I'm saying it wrong?
I don't know.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I just want them to flush out the roster the best they can with the remaining characters that aren't released. And what I mean by that is like, I think we need more AP junglers or magic power junglers and more magic power offlaners, because when you have that, it opens up the ability for you to have like AD mids, like Feng Mao mid, which I actually think would be his best role if it wasn't like trolling your team by not having any magic damage if you take him mid. So if you had characters like Aurora or is she like the only one that can jungle that's remaining? Like they need to make more characters like that that can offlane. Or if they made Kwong like a hybrid character where he builds physical power, but then his abilities get like magic damage based off of his AD ratios, that could be something they do.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally see Kwon being a magical dealing like bruiser. He can be like the first one because we only have magical tanks. We don't have any in between.
You could easily make Kwong just give him all, instead of physical damage, just give him all magical damage. He would be somebody that could definitely fall into that. And be that bruiser.
There's a couple ways you could do that, right? You could make it to where he scales with either witch type, or you could make it to where he scales with physical, but the damage comes out magical.
So that's what I was suggesting.
Which one would be better? I don't know, because I don't know the original design of the kit. Or like
I want to say,
I mean,
I want to say him building magical items because I think there's some really interesting magical bruiser items, just no one can use them at the moment. So I really want to see
like
someone.
Dreambinder.
Yeah, I mean Dreambinder, Elephant,
and that's
like Elephant.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too, is there are a lot of archetypes of characters that aren't in the game yet. Like we don't have any melee carries like Wukong and Sereth. We don't have like Grux is kind of supposed to be a juggernaut.
Right? We might have to kick you off the show.
Oh no.
Yeah, sorry, I won't bring up the monkey yet again. But like Grux is kind of a juggernaut character, but they're afraid to make him actually good because juggernauts like Darius and League, everybody complains about that character whenever he's good because of the way they work. But there are just different character archetypes that aren't in the game yet that I would like to see brought into the game just for the sake of more diversity.
You gotta catch, what's a juggernaut? What is that?
So a juggernaut in League terms, basically they have
bitch.
really high base stats. So they get a lot more from levels than they get from like items. Like they don't have good scaling, but they have high base stats. And then also they're very strong in the 1v1, but because of that, they lack mobility. And so usually they're really hard to 1v1, and usually they're pretty strong early and mid game, but then they fall off late game because they're easily kited by the ranged carries that are online at that point.
Well, that, and it also sounds like items just don't really help him outside of the passives, maybe. Like
yeah, so typically on a juggernaut, you'll build like your core damage item, and then you'll just go tank after that.
So that's actually a thing I'm not super familiar with, because by the time I had stopped playing League, that didn't exist. Is that a necessity in MOBAs? Like, do you have to build that out?
I don't think it's a necessity, but I would like to just see as many different archetypes of characters that you can get away with as possible.
Okay.
Now, speaking of the art, you said melee ADCs, right? Wasn't Yin like the only melee ADC that actually stuck to the ADC role? I mean, I know Sereth wasn't a melee ADC, but she was mainly played off lane. Wukong was mainly played off lane just because of his split pushing or whatever it was able to go on. Like and Greystone became a solo laner as well because he became more of a tank instead. Like they're all meant to be melee ADCs, but they kind of got moved into a different spot because
when they released Wukong and Sereth, it seemed to me that either they were already in Monolith or they had that in the plans for the future. Because Monolith originally was a 2v1 lane. And so you could have a melee carry because you were playing into a 2v1. And so you weren't getting oppressed as much as if you were playing into two range supports and you were like Sereth Narbash. And it was just like unplayable because how do you play Sereth Narbash into like Iggy and Twin Blast? Like you couldn't, right?
Right.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see, now that I'm becoming more of a solo laner, I would like to see an actual melee ADC. And, I was an ADC main going through Paragon, I always played ranged heroes just because I wanted that security. I wanted to be like, hey, I want to stay away from you. I don't want to be up next to you because I know you'll just kill me if I'm that close. So I'd rather be that distance, right? So that's how I always played a ranged character. So I never really jumped. I never played Yin. I never played Sereth. Wukong, again, he was a solo laner when I played. So I was like, never even thought about it. But so now I would like to actually see that how it would feel and how, what would be going on with that. So I'm interested in that for sure. Now somebody saw it, and the way they put it in chat, it was Grux and Choice. The way they typed out Wukong, it made me think, and now I know why he was indestructible. And Joey, you'll understand this because you had your dogs. I'm assuming you probably have the same toy. They have those little Kong toys that are indestructible, right? And that's what Wukong was. He was just indestructible. So you just give him a little Kong toy skin, and then we'll just know that that's what's going to happen, right?
This is another one of those. It's funny not being a Paragon person. Everybody's like, he's going to ruin the game, and I'm like, I think they'll probably change.
Well, and Paragon the Overprime actually proved that the other way because they actually brought him out as weak as all fuck to where people hated it. So when they brought him out, they'd be like, he was pointless. He literally was just a fucking minion, is all he was, right? And they ruined his announcement in a sense, right? They brought him out as like, hey, that's not Wukong, and then everybody hated it. So go ahead.
That's kind of how he was in Paragon too, though, because outside of like that time where he could use his staff push repeatedly until you died because it was bugged and they disabled him for a month. Like I think he had like a 46% win rate. Like he was by far the worst character in the game because when he wasn't, people just complained about him nonstop.
But he was also removed from the game, Paragon, anyways. He was removed from the game 4 different times, if I remember correctly, because he was always broken, right? He had his 1,000 hairs, whatever it was, or whatever it was, something that
84,000 hairs.
84,000 hairs, where he just all of a sudden he would just all the clones would be there, and you literally could split push because you would like those 84,000 hairs were gonna fucking destroy the towers. You know, it's like you pop that ultimate, all of a sudden that boom, the tower's gone instantly, and it's like you can just keep going down the lane and nobody can stop you.
It's funny,
like the York of this game.
As a MOBA roster gets bigger and bigger, like you have to start making like super niche champions like that are good for certain strategies in certain situations. There was like a couple heroes in HOTS or like build paths for heroes in HOTS where like, dude, they couldn't team fight. Like team fighting was like throwing. Like it was just like it's so pointless to team fight with those heroes. So I don't mind something like that. I don't mind something like that existing, but it is weird for the perception of balance, because you'll look at a hero and like maybe in like a certain patch or maybe even for like a really long time, a hero is just like freaking useless. And then some other things come out and change. And then there's a strategy that gets carved out of it. And you're like, oh, that's how we can do it. So it is interesting with like the really, really unique designs. I'm not saying Wukong is that or should be that, but like it could be a really unique design where like that's his intended thing, is like you just giga split push and avoid fights and run from them and do things that make it unfavorable for them to not deal with you, kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see what they do with him eventually.
All right, Crashy, yes. Were you able to watch Zygor's video about the map?
I did, yeah.
All right, you weren't on last week's episode, so I want you to bust in real quick and give us your thoughts on the map and the map size, what's going on. And then Zygor, I want you to jump in and kind of give a little more feedback on your video and what gave you the what's the word I'm looking for? The ambition, I want to make this video about this map. Like what started that off? So Crashy, give your thoughts, and then Zygor jump into that, and then me and Joey will jump in.
So my thoughts on Pred and the map in general, it's actually taking me, I say taking as in like current tense, it's still taking me some time to formulate my opinion, because where it all starts for me is that I do think that there's like a pacing issue with Pred. The game to me feels really snowbally, like super, super snowbally. And honestly, that whole like notion of like 50% of games are surrenders, like that doesn't even surprise me, dude. Games get like really out of control really fast, and I imagine that people just don't want to deal with it. And my thought process never really landed on like the map potentially being a problem, and like when people would say that, I've heard it a lot, like, oh, I think the map should be bigger. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't really know that that's going to solve anything, but I'm like slowly getting more on board with the thought of it, because it was like the one point that you nailed for me was, I forget who it was in the mid lane. Was it Seismic or Atomic that you were watching, where he like leaves mid lane,
Seismic,
goes to duo lane, comes back and missed like one creep. I was like, okay, there's a problem with that at minimum. But wait, can't hear you.
Oh yeah, it was. He spent some time in the duo lane for a while too. Like he didn't just go and come back. He spent like 10-15 seconds there.
But my opinion has also been forming because I had a call or in a talk with Soul Reaper recently. Shout out to Soul Reaper in the chat, where he also talked about how Smite had some similar issues, not necessarily exactly the same, and they did update the size of the map, and then it eventually just didn't inevitably fix it anyways. So I have like some thoughts about it in general. I think sizing up the map could be good. I don't know if it's an ultimate solution. I think even something like getting rid of the jump pads could be good, or opening them up at certain times could be good, where it's like more punishing to have to be sent back to base and to make certain backing decisions. I think something like more intrusive pathing could be good. This was something me and Soul Reaper talked about, where like that straight run from lane to lane is like, dude, it's super simple. You don't have to think about your pathing. You don't have to, it doesn't take you any extra time. You just like bolt straight across, you bolt straight back. So I definitely think that there is something that needs doing when it comes to the map, and I think part of that could be sizing up the map, but I also think part of it could be changing some of what paces out the game currently.
Okay, yeah. All right, Zygor, so real quick before you go over why, I know that's what I was gonna say, but we talked about this last week on the Predcast, and then the Predcast during the editing got cut short. Right. So, and Windu, I know you're in chat. Let me know for sure if this is what's going to happen. But I believe me and him, we were talking about it. And our plan is to basically take that last bit that got cut off, and we're going to edit that down and make it an unlisted video, but mark it, but link it in the pinned comment of that same video. So anybody who wants to catch up on the last part of the Predcast that they missed on episode 24, go back to episode 24, and it should be a pinned comment. Windu, if I'm wrong with that, let me know so I can make sure I'll make a comment here live as we go, but that is the plan that I remember how it's going to go.
So he did do that because I watched.
Is it already there?
Watched
it's already there. I haven't been.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I'm behind. I haven't been able to catch up on all the. I try to stay up to date with all the messages, so that's perfect.
No, you're good.
Glad it's there, so that anybody who did miss it, make sure I'll make that announcement now. Anybody who did miss it, go back, watch episode 24. There's a pinned comment that'll be the rest of the episode of what's there, and then you'll also get to hear the rest of our comments of what we thought about Zygor's video. And then for those of you who don't know about it, Zygor does have a video on YouTube about the map size, and then right now Zygor is going to break down what kind of got him into the ambition of making that video.
So, like, it's a lot more when you change the map. It's a lot more complicated than, like, I agree that having a bend in the path to make it take longer would fix the issue of rotation times, because it wouldn't make the rotation time take longer, and it would also solve the issue where the support can just stand past the fog wall and see anybody walking up from forever away. But the problem with that is if you put that bend into it, it has to intrude into one of the sides of the jungle, and I think the jungle sides are already cramped as it is. And for the jungle sizes, I think they've done a pretty good job at giving verticality to them with the space that they have. But if you bend that mid lane river path into one side, it's inevitably going to make one side shorter and one side longer, and that's going to really exacerbate the Dawn Dusk side, where I believe Dawn has a higher percent win rate because people start on red buff and they gank dual lane, whereas on Dusk people start red buff and they gank solo lane. There's a bit of a difference there. But when you make one of those jungles bigger, one, like, what do you do with the extra space? Do you put another camp, and that makes red side even stronger? Do you have to take a camp away from blue because there's less space there, or like, how do you do that? And then two, like, I think if they're going to change the map, I think pretty much everyone in the community is in agreement that the map needs to be overhauled eventually anyway. So I think if they're going to make any changes, they should just go for, like, the craziest changes they can make and try to make it as cool as possible if they're going to change anything at all. Otherwise, they're just wasting time. And so a lot of the issue, I think, with the current map is actually more of a jungler issue than it is, like, for the laners, because the laners have to see the map less than, you know, the junglers, because they don't leave lane as often. But with the really quick on the rotation times and the recall timers, the problem with, like, removing jump pads and things like that is, one, they're not going to, because they're going to try to sell this jump pad VFX, right? Like, it's just going to stay in the game one way or another.
Yep.
But two, like, it always feels really bad to take something away from players rather than give them something new. And so if you keep the jump pads, but then make the map bigger so it takes, 5 more seconds to get to lane, that essentially solves the same thing without taking something away.
Correct.
Even if it's taking longer, it's just like, it's subconsciously not as taxing on the player as if you just made the map longer. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense.
If they make the map bigger, it gives them more room to do things in the map, like create neutral objectives. I know last week you guys talked about having, like, a scuttle crab or something. I kind of hate the scuttle crab, but Dota 2 has a bunch of different neutral objectives, like terrorizers. They have secret shops. And I'm not saying this game needs to copy Dota 2 or be a Dota 2 clone. This game can be its own thing, but having more space will give the developers the creative liberty to add in more things and make the map more unique, and also take advantage of making the map more elevated. Because right now, if you add too much elevation to the map, it's going to look really weird. Because I don't know if you guys played Monolith, but it was like you were fighting up this super steep hill, and it was kind of awkward because some characters, like Sereth, you could leap and you could go super far going downhill, but then going uphill you had, like, no room on it, and it just made matchups super weird for that reason. And so having the ability to have more gradual slopes combined with, like, steep cliffs and things like that would be really cool. And then, like, also, you like you would just have more room to do more things. Obviously, making the map bigger would make the solo lane more of an island, but you could do things to mitigate that. Like I know Overprime has the portal, and I don't really like how the portal in Overprime is designed. I think a portal more like in Dota 2, where there's like a channel to it, and it's not like it takes longer, or you could do something like the Hex Gate in League where there's a channel to it, and then there's also a travel time to it as well, so it's not quite as instant. That could be something that could be played with. But I was talking to my friend, and we were also thinking about other ways you could have solo lane have more impact, because even in League of Legends with the teleport summoner spell, the top lane is kind of a bit of an island. So we played around with the idea, like what if the Cyan buff became something else later in the game, like a type of mini boss where if you killed it, it dropped like an idol that you could pick up, and it would give you stats, but then if you died, it would be dropped again and somebody else could pick it up. And like I said, there's just, if you give them more room, they can come up with things like that that are super creative, where there's no room for any of that stuff right now. So just like, I don't know.
I was also thinking, and that brought up, so Mad Cat, let me read it real quick, says, maybe open up the map vertically, add more options to move around the map, or gank, for gank options and objectives areas. I said last week not to bring in, because what the early was that, I think it was, I don't think it was Legacy, I think it was early Monolith. They had those jump pads in the middle of the map that could jump you across mid lane, right? I don't want those directly in mid lane, but like maybe from outer lane, from the dual lane and the solo lane, you could jump a little bit more into the middle of the jungle, right? To help you kind of close that, the little more speed to get into the mid lane. Maybe that'll be something to help you gank wise or whatever. I think that would be also with the jump pad situations. It'll help you with those jump pads, give you another jump pad in the game, but it also give you a little more animation. But if we make the map wider, obviously, it's just gonna be something that kind of help you jump into a certain objective or whatever. I think something like maybe that would work out. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Sounds like I don't really like change. Like it sounds like that would change gameplay a lot, which could be good maybe, but I don't know. It's like I would have to test it or see it. I don't know.
I don't think I'm a big fan of the idea of going from one place to another really fast. That's not from spawn, because I feel like you kind of if you do that, then trying to balance the whole map around that would be really weird. I feel like
I don't like the idea of jump pads over the mid lane, like you said, because one, like showing the enemy team where you are as the jungler is really bad. When you're flying in the air for everybody to see you, it's like you can't really hide that, right? But what I played with was the idea of, I think somebody said make mid lane like a bridge, and so in Legacy, I don't know if you guys, I think you all played Legacy other than Crashing.
I didn't play it, but I know what you're talking about.
Legacy had that canopy and you couldn't see under it, and it was a clever solution to not having fog walls, which I think something like that should probably come back. But if you have that canopy, you could put like maybe a tunnel underneath the mid lane. That way, one, it's like one of those things where if I go this way, it's faster, but it's probably warded, and so it's like, do I want to risk showing myself if I don't have a gank and things like that? But as far as having jump pads in the jungle,
a tunnel, that would be great.
It's like kind of weird, because if you have a fight in the jungle and then you try to get away and then somebody just jump pads ahead of you, like it's just, I don't know, it's awkward. So
yeah, no, not you brought the tunnel. I actually prefer the tunnel idea now that you say that, because like one, so the jump pads, obviously it's a speed thing, like what Joey was saying, right? But the tunnel, you're not doing a speed thing, but it's just another way to traverse the game. It gives elevation, which is what this game needs to promote highly, right? They need to be like, hey, we're better than Smite because we're using verticality, and then people from Smite are going to come over just because of that itself, right? And so you're going to be, the mid laner's going to be up top looking down on the jungler crossing over, whatever, or it might be a little canopy that kind of hides a little bit, but you can ward it, like you said, but you have a little way to traverse the map there, that the river goes through it, right? And it'd be the bridge, I think that's great. That would be a perfect thing to kind of add a little elevation. Now, only thing is, we need to add that a little bit in the jungle. We need to add that a little bit on the outer lanes as well. They need to focus on verticality, in my opinion. That needs to be something they need to do.
Point. I think that like one of the, it should be, okay, sorry, I need to collect my thoughts. To carve out your spot in an already existing genre, the best way to do it is to create a niche, and they're coming into the third person niche, which is already great because it's the lower side of what MOBAs exist as. Like there's just really not that many third person MOBAs, so that's great. But this game does do verticality well in terms of how it physically plays, but the map doesn't offer it enough. Like it should be one of the main selling points of Pred, is the fact that like you got to flick up and shoot and aim and jump off of cliffs. And so I've been looking around the map a lot, and dude, like a random ramp or like a random like cliff where you could jump off of it. Like I thought about this. I wasn't sure if I liked this idea. I don't remember when we talked about it. I think it was on here before. Like where the river buffs are, like instead of having that mini wall there, like have it like a fall off cliff where you could literally just walk off of it. I think playing around with the verticality in Pred should be a major selling point of the game, and something that the devs should experiment with. Like go crazy with it, dude. I think it's a really, really cool part that this game has. So I would love to see more of it.
This is like a personal thing for me, but you know how Orb Prime, it like slams down from the air? I'm like, what if, for example, the Orb Prime pit was like an asteroid impact crater? So that way you had to like go down in this crater to fight it, and it made it so you were at like kind of a disadvantage. And so that would kind of help with the snowballiness, where it would be one, harder to know if you're going to get jumped on because you might not be able to see out of the pit, but two, like just make it more risky. So that way, if you are super ahead and you're not, you're doing a risky play, not getting a pick before you do it, it makes it harder for you to just get away with it, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know if he's still around, but me and Soul Reaper had a talk like a couple days ago. We were just talking about the game in general, and he had a really cool idea for pit changes that I'm if he's not here, I'll probably just bring it up, and then like I'm giving him credit for it. And I thought when I was thinking about it, I got him to explain it to me, so I fully knew what he meant by what he wanted to see with the pits, and I love the idea. Okay, so put your mind in game for me and think about the Orb Prime pit. Yes, all right, Soul Reaper, I'm selling your pit idea. Okay, get over it. So put your mind in the Orb Prime pit. You know where the blue buff is? Right behind blue buff, there's like that little hallway. Mm-hmm. Okay. Soul Reaper said, open a door right there, like an archway right there that looks over into Prime Pit. So now you have an entryway from that side of the jungle, and then right outside of that opening, have like two like stairways or curvature like pathings downward into the pit. I love this idea because there's just not enough entrances and ways to path around that fight when teams are dancing it, and I hate that fight. I hate that fight so much because like it feels like no one can actually start the objective, and it also feels like no one can actually get in to do it unless it's like a full-on committal thing. So having that like little hallway have an opening that then leads into like two stairways that come down into the pit, I think would be great, because it's like way more approachable for both teams to potentially go up into each other's areas and fight or flank. And I really, really like that idea. It's also verticality, because if you have an opening there that leads to a staircase, you could run down the staircase, or you could like just straight jump off the cliff and dive into the pit. So I really, really like that idea. I think that'd be cool on both sides. And I also just want more verticality, like we were talking about. So. Another thing that Natty real quick brought up is the global experience on objectives is actually a joke when it comes to how snowbally this game is, because if you take both mini primes and like the first 3 Fangtooths, it's like 600 gold per person on your team, which is the equivalent of giving over like 3 kills to every teammate on your team. And then it's also like 2 levels of experience, and I think a level is like worth 600 gold on its own. So you're giving your team essentially like an 1800 gold advantage if you manage to secure all the objectives. And so that's really hard to overcome, even if the objective bounties are working the way they are. And I don't even know how much gold those give away, because it's like, unless you're recording and looking over that, it's hard to figure out how much.
Sorry, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do have to head out for tonight. So
all good, Joy. Any last words for you? What before you bounce out? To the devs, to the community, what do you want to do? To me, tell me to shut up. Either way.
I didn't have any last words. I guess everyone have a good night, and I guess next Tuesday is going to be kind of lit, I guess. So
that it will. To that. All right, thanks so much, Joey.
It's good talking to you, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy.
So devil's advocate to what you were saying there, Zygor, though, is, I mean, wouldn't that just be, aren't you just playing the game wrong if you're letting the other team get all of those objectives?
I mean, Well, yeah, I mean, you are playing the game wrong, obviously, right? But it doesn't change the fact that there's no way. It's very hard to come back from that, right? If the game is so
should you be able to come back from that? Like, if you as a team were able to secure all of those, should the other team be like, okay, now we're gonna start playing? We gave you everything in the beginning. Even if it's not all of them, though, like I do think that the game has a major snowball issue, and the point of getting the objective should be whatever the objectives give, not the added bonus global experience and gold on top of that, right?
And if half of games are ending in a surrender, then obviously there's some sort of problem there.
Yeah. Right. No, I'm not saying the surrender isn't an issue. I'm just saying, like, in that situation, like, I just feel like in that scenario, we're talking about what, 3 Fangtooths, we're talking about 2 mini buffs or mini primes, and we're talking about that was it, right? So that's 5 objectives that you're doing there. And if you're allowing a team to get 5 objectives that quick, like that right there.
Well, again, we're not even talking about all 5 of them. Like, we're just talking about even just one of them, right? Like if the golden experience that you get even just from one of them is too much, then it should be looked at.
Here's a perfect example. Say you get 1 Fangtooth lead, and that causes you get the experience from it, and it causes you in mid lane or solo lane to get level 6 like 5-6 seconds before your opposing laner is, and then they all on you, and then they die, or then you die because of it, because they got experience from something that they didn't even contribute to helping their team get.
Right.
That is kind of messed up.
No, okay. I that completely makes sense. That's a better way to go off with that. I can see that for sure. Yeah, because you're sitting there and you're 1v1ing this guy in solo lane, and while in the meantime their team's getting Fangtooth, the next thing you know, they got level 6, and I thought I was winning, but all of a sudden an ult just came on me, and that way, that changed the game for sure there. Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, I like it. And that's to me, where me, somebody, the bronze silver guy that I am, I don't see the game like you guys are able to see it and understand that situation, like you, Natty, and Crashy here. I see it as like, okay, I know how to play my lane. I can look at the scoreboard and see that my dual lane's doing good in their lane, but I don't see the bigger pictures that you guys are seeing in that situation.
And I think the best way to approach these changes too are in a way that it solves the problem that we're having on that level without really altering the game for you guys on the lower level. I'm not saying it's
I appreciate you taking a good job at that. Like, yeah, a lot better than your video you did for me. I'm like, yeah, this guy just called me a shitter. All right. So but I want to go back real quick, because I stepped away, but I had my headset on, I heard it. I love your idea of Orb Prime being a crater, right? And I think you could tie those 2 ideas together. Yeah. When it comes down as a crater, 2 rocks form an archway, and then that's your pathway of what Soul Reaper was saying. That's that doorway, right? The way the 2 rocks came up and crashed, they line up together, whatever, and that gives you that archway of the other entrance that we're talking about for Orb Prime. That it still gives you that downward pit you got to play into. It kind of once you go in there, like, hey, we're in here, guys. We're gonna play this, right? And then the people can play from above or whatever. I'm all about that. I think that I actually really enjoyed that with Fault, when Fault made the Raptor Pit was more of like a little divot. You kind of had to go down into the Raptor Pit to actually play it. It wasn't crazy. I mean, it wasn't no crater hole, but like it was something good. So I enjoy that idea, and I think that would just adds more to how the map will look. The visual effects to it. I think that'd be great. And especially because like Mini Prime being what it is, it's just little, it's no big deal. But when Big Prime, it just becomes this big pit. Like it'd be transform the map a little bit. I think that'd be add more to it as well.
And the thing is, I have tons of ideas. The problem is it's very hard to explain something abstract like a map design by just talking about it. I'm working on like a part 2 to my video where I kind of have illustrations of things, but I'm not like the best artist. So I'm trying to hire people to draw things, and it's just a process. So it's taking a while, but I do have a lot more ideas than I'm giving on. I would love to talk to a developer about them, or even I would love to talk to Soul Reaper about what his ideas for the map are, because I value the perspective of other people, because the more input that I have, the better I can translate it into a video and maybe hopefully get my point across to somebody who might be able to impact things. So
Yeah, I definitely think, and Soul Reaper's a super cool dude. I definitely think y'all should chat, because me and him, just like I said, we were just spitballing and talking about the game in a call not that long ago, and hearing his opinion of like the map sizing up not necessarily being like the end all solution was pretty. It was at the minimum interesting, because he related it to his experience with Smite, where he was like, they did size up the map and it really didn't do anything. So I think it'd be fun to hear how he can kind of like relate his experience from Smite and that perspective to Pred, because I gotta be honest, there are some things that I feel like I have a solid take on, where I'm like, this is how I think it should be. I think this would be better. And then with this idea of about like the sizing the map or the pathing in the ways, like I'm really new to third person MOBAs, and I feel like that actual lacking experience is kind of impacting my ability to come to like a resolute opinion about it. But I'm down to listen to these opinions. It helps me form my opinion, and then ultimately we're obviously all here to try to make Pred the best game it can be. So giving any feedback we can to the devs is going to be super valuable. So I actually Soul Reaper brought up like super old test footage of Pred. I didn't even know the map was different back then. I just assumed we were like always playing with this. So yeah, it's been interesting to kind of catch up to
map was different, and wards were fucking huge. Wards would cover the whole, gank entrance. Like it was insane how huge those fucking wards were. I'm like, damn. And they were like, you put them down and they'd like go above you, like the whole dome. Like if there was a flying character, they would have been in the ward as well, because they would have happened. That's how big they were.
That's wild.
But with that, and talking about how we're here to make the game better, I know Windu has had some issues, and Windu, go ahead and chime in and chat. I'll read your comments too. I don't know about you guys, but I know there's been people have been having, and I've seen them in our partner Discord, people were just having some issues with matchmaking.
We actually touched on this a little at the
did we touch a little bit? All right,
we touched on it
go over a little
before
bit.
You got in. Yeah.
All right, so maybe Windu already put his points across, but let's go a little bit deeper into that in matchmaking. What do you guys think those issues might be? Is it just on meta.city? Is it just because those APIs are out? Because I know those aren't the actual true APIs of the game.
My TLDR is that like I just think like matchmaking issues are it's like an unsolvable thing right now, because we just don't have players. Like tuning down the matchmaking to make it like tighter and more competitive is going to be hard, because the people that would actually impact would just basically sit in queue forever, or like you would have to take liberties with the matchmaking system, where it's like, okay, after X amount of minutes it starts opening up, and then you just eventually end up in the same game anyways. So while yes, I do think there's a matchmaking issue, I don't actually think it's a matchmaking issue. I think it's a player-based issue, and that's one of those things there's not really much to be done other than to give the game more time. So that's kind of something I said a little earlier, but like I do just think like it's a growing pain of being in an early access game.
Sagor?
I mean, that's basically like the honest truth of the issue, right? If you have I think the game has like 1,200 active players at peak time, which is like 9 p.m. my time. It's probably 8 p.m. Eastern time. There are 5 servers. The SEA server probably has like 100 players on it. Let's be honest. Europe probably has at peak time a couple hundred players on it. NA West probably has a couple hundred. And if we're being generous, NA East, I live in West, but I play on East because there's just more players. NA East has like 500 players on it, right? If you have out of those 500 players, the top 10% is going to be what, like, is that 50 of your players? Or is that? Yeah, it would be. Yeah. So 50 of your players are in the top 10%. The skill difference between the top 10% and the top 5% is pretty damn big. The difference between the top 5% and the top like 0.1% is colossal. And so if you have those 50 players, you can have, if you manage to get them all in games with only, the other top 50 players, you have 10 games going.
Right.
But the thing is, you're not going to get them in games, those other 50 players, because they all queue at different times. And it's just, it's going to be very difficult to do that. And so then it's like, okay, do you say that the top 1% can only play with the top 20 players? Because honestly, the difference in skill between a player in the top 20% of players and a player in the top 50% of players isn't really that big. And so it's just, like Crash said, I think it's a player-based issue. And I don't think that constricting things down will really solve.
No, and I agree. And I have my matchmaking games that I've had is evidence to support that, right? Because I'm at that lower end. I'm at silver. What if we go off of Omega.City. I am currently at 1397 MMR. I'm a silver according to Omega.City, right? I have no shame. I've grown. I'm no longer a bronze, guys. Thank you so much. All right. So
Nice.
anyways, I've grown. I'm getting out of here. But I'm down here, right? But all my matchmaking, if I solo queue, if I 3-stack, if I 5-stack, all my matchmaking is actually pretty equal. Pretty good across the map. Like I 5-stacked not last night, but the night before, I 5-stacked with some friends that I started out as 3-stack, and then people in chat wanted to join up. Like, all right, we joined up with them and we played. Now we lost those matches, but we didn't get stomped. We didn't get like, oh my gosh, and then we go back and look and like, well, we're playing against platinums. What happened? No, it wasn't like that. We were playing actually pretty equal matches. So I haven't had a match where I've went and looked at Omega City and been like, what happened here? So like I haven't had any of those matches where I'm like solo queue, duo queue, triple, 3-stacks, doesn't matter what I play. I haven't had a match I'm like, oh my gosh, we just got outmatched. The only time that happened was competitive nights when we won 2 in a row, and then all right, our third game, well, here you go, now go play these guys. Well, fuck, we got outmatched. But that was competitive nights. That's a different situation. We were meant to get, that's how it was going to work out, and I understand that, so I'm not complaining about that. But I don't have any issues with matchmaking.
Realistically, the players like Crashy and I are the problem. It's not you guys, because the people that are complaining about match quality are the people that are getting us in their games, or it's us complaining that we're in their games. And realistically, like,
yeah, so quit playing the game.
It sucks that such a small proportion of the population is kind of ruining matches for all the other players. But like, are they just going to say like, look, guys, we know that you guys are really good, but can you just not play for the sake of everybody else so games are balanced until like full release? Like, I don't know, like,
right,
that's probably just as good as a solution to the problem as making queue times 40 minutes. Like, it's just,
yeah, again, it's like the actual solution is having more players, and that solution is only going to come with time. So there's really not much ado about the issue, but yeah, we just hang out. And I do this thing where, like, I literally posted a tweet the other day, and I literally said I can't play this game anymore, and I mostly mean it. I'm actually going to play with my friend here in a little bit, but I mostly mean it. Like, I really like the game's not for me right now. But, and again, I'm always going to put this out there because I want to be very transparent with my opinion. It's not an existential issue. Not worried about the future. I still think this game's going to do great. I still think Omeda's doing great. I'm not knocking at their door saying, what the hell, guys, y'all need to fix this. I don't think there is a fix. The fix is to complete the game, to release the game free to play, to get an influx of players, and then to respond to that player base size with matchmaking changes. So until that time comes, I'm just kind of chilling and maybe the game's not really retaining me as well as I would like, but that's also a selfish thought. So I'm not really that stressed, not really that worried about it.
For sure. And that's this is where we need this next, and they alluded to this next patch being huge, right? They're hoping for this next patch to be huge, and that saying the word hope means that they have things in line that as long as everything in testing goes the way they want it to, that they're going to be able to put this in the next patch, and this next patch is going to make a huge difference in a lot of things. I don't know what it means, and it could be a bunch of things if you look at the roadmap, but it's there, right? And I think that needs to be done to bring in some of the player base, because as Igor just said in chat, we've lost another 500 players within the last 30 days. That's huge, right? I've played Fault with only 150 concurrent players, right? And it becomes an issue. You start playing the same people over and over and over again, and that becomes an issue. Then you start dying, it starts dying down. Then you get people in chat just saying dead game. Is it weird that I feel like the player base number doesn't matter until the game's free to play? Like, I don't think it matters if we lose nearly everybody. I just don't think it matters. Well, I think it does matter in the sense of what we're talking about here. We're talking about complaining about matchmaking, right? The less players we have play this game, the worse matchmaking is going to be. Yeah, but that's my point. Like, matchmaking doesn't matter now because the game's not released. Like, it's one of those things where, like, it matters because it literally has a side effect, but it doesn't matter because it can't have a long-term effect on the game until the game is released, and we either see if the game at that point is retaining players or no, because you can still have you don't have to have the game released to have 3,000 people playing the game. The game doesn't have to be released to have 3,000 people playing it.
Yeah, but you can't argue. But you can't. Let me think of how to say this. You can't deny that a released product that has more retention-based systems is going to naturally retain a product that doesn't have retention-based systems. So the game could have 3,000 players right now, but why would it when it doesn't have any retention in it?
So you can still have retention without being released, is what I'm saying. Like you could put what the hell is a master master system, right? Do your mastering system. You master these heroes, master that hero, right? You can put that in there. You can put other things in that are going to help retain. You could put a casual mode in that's going to an ARAM mode that's going to bring people in that just want to play that game, that play that situation. There's things you can do without making it released. It doesn't have to be released. I agree, but the game doesn't have those things. That's why I'm saying I don't think player count matters. Like, because the game doesn't have those things. Right, but I'm saying, like, that's the whole thing. They're talking about, like, hey, this patch is going to be huge, or we hope this next patch is going to be huge.
So it's going to be a doozy.
It's going to be doozy, right? I'm not saying it's going to have a casual matchmaking. I'm not saying it's going to have mastery system. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. But like it's there. Like it's something like that can happen in the next patch. I don't know what it may be, but something like that can happen.
I think in this, I don't really have a ton of information as far as to what Omega prioritizes, but I would imagine that overhauling the UI of everything and also changing like the store interface, they did the thing. It looked really clean with the updated. What's what I'm looking for?
Like the home screen.
Yeah, the updated home screen. I think that's probably taking up a lot more of their resources than what we think. And that's supposed to be coming, I would imagine, probably not this upcoming content patch, but probably the one next month would be my guess of when that comes out. And I would hope that after that comes out, they can start adding a lot more of those retention systems and get a lot more things at a quicker pace, because I think that's just a massive drain on their system right now. So I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I'm just saying. I just don't feel like it's one's exclusive to the other. Like you can have one without the other for sure, in any means. So that's where I think the player base does matter in the situation. Like we can boost the player base and make matchmaking better without having to go full release. Is all I was getting at with that situation. But we are getting close to our time. So let's do some closing remarks, closing comments, anything. Anybody you guys want to talk about? If we missed anything, let me know. We'll cover it real quick. If not, let's do a little shout out for ourselves, and then a little, talk to the community, talk to the devs. Any comments you want to say to them, and we'll go in the order of Zygor, Crashy, then myself, and Windu. If you have anything that you want to say, I know you're in chat. Go ahead and say it to me, and then I'll read it off for them, and we'll go from there.
Like I said before, I'm Zygor. I have a very small YouTube channel. I make meme videos sometimes. Sometimes I make more serious videos. I'll probably make a meme video when Morgash comes out. I didn't for FaZe because that character is boring as hell. But if you want to do that, I'm on YouTube. I'll probably stream when I upgrade my computer later this year. I'll be on Twitch, but I won't worry about that for now. So yeah, if you want to find my channel, I'm on YouTube. It's just type in Zygor Predecessor, it'll probably pop up. So
all right, and do me a favor, shoot me those links. If you have Twitter, Twitch, all that stuff, shoot me those links, all that stuff. I will get that to Windu, and then we will get that to the editor, and that will be posted in the description below. And for those of you watching on YouTube, Crashy.
Crashy is my name. Big shout outs to Windu and Joey for being here as well. They obviously had to dip out, but it's always a good time talking to them. I make videos on YouTube. I stream on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. So you can find me basically any social media. If you type in Crashy, you're going to find me. I'm the only one out there, really. At least that matters. And but no, my message to the devs, I've had this discussion directly with Import. I can be insufferable at times. I'm really abrasive and kind of like heavy-handed with my opinions. But keep doing the work you're doing. I'm gonna spit out some, like, I'm gonna get pissy every now and then. I'm gonna spit out some harsh takes, but I think y'all are doing great. I think the trajectory looks good. And this is one of the feedback points that I actually sent to Import whenever I talked to him last. I want to see more of them. I feel like I want to see them on camera more. I want to hear from them more. I feel like their communication is good, but I actually want to physically like feel like a community with them a little bit more. So that's maybe like a point of feedback for them, for the community. And this is a big one. and I'm going to be Crashy style for it because I think it's more fun. Quit being a fucking bitch and moderate your own games. Quit it. Quit sitting in game, bitching and moaning about the people that are so toxic to you. Shut the fuck up, mute them, turn your game chat off, have your fucking fun. Quit being a bitch. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the fucking bullshit Reddit posts. I'm sick of seeing people, he's just so toxic to me. Report them, block them, move on, have your fucking fun. I'm so fucking sick of that point. It's ridiculous, dude. Have some fucking accountability for your own actions and in the way that you spend your time, please. There's green grass on this side of not being a bitch. I promise you. Come chill in the sun with us, you know?
All right. So Windu did say, thank you everyone for watching. Leave topic suggestions in the comments below for those of you watching on YouTube, or you can drop them here in the chat too, and I will try to remember them as we're exiting out here. So for my input, again, I'm trying to stay live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesdays are the Predcast. Now, because my daughter's softball schedule now is Tuesdays, Thursday nights. Tonight she had a rescheduled game here. You guys said you wanted to hear from Debs because we had to reschedule this week. Actually, this week Tuesday was supposed to be Blood Mortius. All right. So I'm already working with him, trying to get him rescheduled for another Wednesday. So it's going to happen. I couldn't get him for next Wednesday because he's already rescheduled. So Blood Mortius will be coming on here, the Predcast here in a few weeks, hopefully here soon. I'm just working with him to figure out best time for him. But that Predcast will be at 5:30 because working with Blood Mortius, he is over on EU. So trying to work with the time there. So stay tuned. We are trying to get more devs coming on here. It's just, they're busy, obviously, working with the game. They're also busy working in EU, so it's hard to get them over here. But stay tuned for that. I'm still working on that scheduling. For anybody who wants to be on the show, come on. You got a webcam. You can come on, put some good opinions out here. Reach out to me through Discord, whatever, Twitter. I don't care. You can find me, the Bearded Wolverine, and let me know you want to be on here. All right. I'm the one that does most of the scheduling, getting people on here. Let me know. Or if you already have the inlet through Crashy, Joey, Windu, not Windu, because Windu never checks his Discord. So Crashy, Joey, let them know, and then they'll hit me up and say, hey, I want to be on there, and I'll get in touch with you guys. We will get more people on here because this is a community-based show. We want the community to be able to get out their opinions and their thoughts, but we want it to be in a constructive manner, not just somebody to come to shit on the game. All right. So if you want to shit on the game, we don't want you here, but if you want to be constructive and help this game grow, more power to you. Let's get you on here. Let's get some good opinions out here. But other than that, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, because Windu's got a great YouTube channel. So give him some love. And thank you all for coming by and hanging out here. And we will see you on the next one. Peace.